How we doing, everybody, and welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We're coming back on a Sunday, getting close to Christmas here. The wife got me a new T-shirt, got the Grinch on her here, so just repping out Christmas, getting into the festive spirit. Right? You know what? I can't even say I'm saying the opposite of the festive spirit there with the Grinch T-shirt on tonight here. So hey, you know what? It was like a lot of these college football games over the weekend. There, a lot of them just stole the thunder, right? We were going into this weekend. We were hyped. We were like, man, Friday night football, Saturday football all day, NFL, college, everything in between, Sunday football, Monday Packers. I was like, it can't get better than this. And then I'm watching these games and I'm like, okay, hold on. It could get better than this. This sucks. This absolutely sucks. Like, this is some bad football. Like, I went through the day and, Penn State, SMU, if that SMU quarterback could stop throwing the ball away, two pick sixes, and he had another pick in there. I was like, dude, you're losing this game by yourself. I mean, Penn State's offense SMU's defense looked good. Penn State's offense wasn't moving the ball for a while there. It was their defense with two pick sixes that were carrying that entire game. And then, you look at these other ones, and we'll get into them here, but the Friday night game, Notre Dame just dismantles Indiana. The score looks closer because of the end. Couple onside kicks. That kicker, he's got a heck of a boot there for the onside kick, though. That was nuts. Texas, Clemson. Clemson made it close there late, but Texas was able to win that one. Ohio State just completely mauls Tennessee. That wasn't even a game. We watched these, and Aaron, I know we're going to get into it here, but what were your thoughts? This is the first season, college football playoff. We were hyped for it. We were like, something new, right? We always love something new. It's like that new toy. This was that new toy. We were all excited. What did you think of this first round here in the college football playoff and the 12-team playoff?
I think I don't want to call like SM because, like you said, SMU, like for SMU, for example, I'm not going to say like I don't want to be disrespectful to them. It's just some of these teams felt like men among boys, for whatever reason. Like I don't know what I'm not saying like in Indiana, right? They didn't really see and. Not that Notre Dame, I don't anticipate Notre Dame going the whole way, but I just feel like Notre Dame presented a challenge to them that they didn't really see in their schedule other than Ohio State. SMU, you can kind of make the case. I think the fact that it was like, frigid. It was cold here. It was colder in State College, which, like I said, it's like 3 hours from me. So I think that played a role because like you're playing like you're playing mostly in the South there. Like you break down most of these games. They played Pitt at home. They played like they didn't really go to a cold weather climate. And I'm not going to say that's like the only reason they lost or whatever, but you could like attribute that to some of their, they haven't really seen that before. And then, you go into Clemson and Texas. I thought that the talent was just way too like there's a big gap, I thought, between Texas and Clemson. And then Ohio State, Tennessee, same thing. I just thought like so. I'm not going to say I don't like the setup. It's not perfect, but I think this next round, if we don't see better games in the next round, I'll be shocked. I think now, the Penn State Boise State game's a little like it could go lopsided again. I think it has the potential to just because it's smaller conference. They have Ashland Genty, right? Something like that.
Ashland Genty.
Yeah, I hate names, man. I hate names. But it's like there's other matchups. Obviously, we'll get into those other ones, but that one in particular, you feel like okay, boy, who's Boise State played and this and that. But it's disappointing that they're not closer for sure. Like no one. I think, especially like if you're not a fan of any of these teams, then it's like, oh, this is a drag. Like this sucks. It's not close. It's like Ohio State was up 21-0, I think, in the first quarter. So it's like, man, like that type of stuff you don't want to see in the playoffs. But it is. I hate, like I said, I hate saying this. It is what it is. We'll see how it progresses. I think as the game, as they move through the bracket, it gets more competitive, especially next round, and then the semifinal type games will be quite tight. I think. I like to think, at least.
I think the realization I came to, and this is what it's going to be every single year, unless they completely change it on us. We will never get the top 12 teams in college football into the bracket, right? You're going to have to cater to some other conferences. That's just going to be how it is. And truth be told, are there 12? Is there could you realistically say there's 12 teams in college football where we could say one of those 12 teams, either one of those 12 teams could go to the national championship? I don't think so, right? I mean, you go through a line list. You go Oregon, yes. Texas, yeah. You give Georgia, yeah, they could go, right? Ohio State, yeah, they could go. Penn State, yeah, I would give them a benefit of a doubt. I think they got a good enough defense. Drew Aller, we saw him make some good plays in that game against SMU there where he's moving. I mean, I would say Penn State would be probably my last one. That'd be my last team where I'm like, those teams right there. So what did I just name off? 3, 4, 5 teams out of 12 where I gave them a realistic shot that they could have gone to a national championship. And then you look at the rest of them. I mean, you look Clemson. No, Clemson wasn't going to be able to do it. Arizona State, I love the story. They have a heck of a running back there. But outside of that, I really don't see them. Tennessee, I thought they had too many flaws. SMU, SMU, I thought out of all the games I watched, if SMU could have somehow quarterback play held them back. I thought they were getting guys open downfield a lot in that game. Quarterback play held them back. So SMU was but Indiana, no. And I don't think Notre Dame can. I mean, Notre Dame, they're a good team, but they're on my cusp. They're like my middle of the pack team right now. They're probably right below Penn State as that opportunity to go all the way. So throw Alabama in there, right? Alabama lost to Tennessee. Tennessee got railed by Ohio State. So you're telling me that instead of Tennessee, we should have thrown Alabama in? No. Alabama got steamrolled. They would have got steamrolled by Ohio State. So we cannot keep going back to say, if Alabama would have been in that game versus Penn State, sure. If Alabama would have been in that game against Penn State, it would have been 38-17. Instead of 38-10, it would have been 38-17. You played at Penn State. That's a big thing in the first round too. You have to go into a lot of hostile environments. Just think of SMU. You give SMU's quarterback a neutral field for that game, not close to Pennsylvania. Maybe it's a different thing we're talking about right now. He couldn't hear you. You saw him. He's got his hands up against his helmet, and that actually makes it worse because then the crowd sees that and they're like, "Let's go absolutely ballistic."
Yeah, just get it up. Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it makes it worse for him. He's already having a bad day. Now his coach can't talk to him on the field there. He can't hear anything. The line can't make checks. It was leading towards disaster, and that's what we saw. And that's what you're going to get on these home fields. So I'm not blaming that, right? You're going to give home field advantage to some of these teams in there. And hopefully down the road, maybe a team like Tennessee doesn't lay an egg on the road against Ohio State. Maybe they come in and they play well, right? But Ohio State, for an 8 seed in a playoff, they're darn good. They are darn good. I mean, you could have said that they were the 1 seed after watching that game because they have playmakers, they have a heck of a defense, they have the ability to do everything you want them to do. So, I mean, yeah, it's what we're gonna get. It's what we're gonna get, and I don't see how you can change the format. I really don't. The only thing I'm twiddling with the format is I'm not making the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds. I'm not making them just because you won a conference title. I'm making them the top 4 teams in college football. That's what I'm making that. Outside of that, then I drop my teams back. Because maybe, just maybe, if you give me an Arizona State versus Clemson, it's a better game, right? If you give me a Boise State versus SMU, instead of Penn State having to play SMU, you have a better game in game 1. That's what I think fixes your first round. Second round, then you're going to get some, I think either way, you're going to get some, butt kickings at some point in there, right? But it does change it, though, because you have to go on the road then, or you're going to be a neutral site in that second round. So that definitely does change a little bit there too. I mean, Aaron, what are you thinking? Is there any way to really fix it?
I like your idea a lot. I don't know if I'm a fan of going to a neutral site for the first round. You know,
no, not first round, second round.
I know. I'm just saying, I was kind of toying with that idea. What if everything was a neutral site? But I think you got to give home game, no matter who's going to travel, let's say Penn State fans travel or Ohio State fan, you can't look at who's going to travel. You got to give that first round, home field advantage for somebody, deservingly so. over the other team. Like, for whatever reason, more wins, strength of schedule, all that combined into a formula. I think, like you said, I think if you just take the best four or whatever, best six, however you want to look at it, those teams and put them in and organize it by that. I agree with you. I know you have to put in like the Boise States of the world and the SMUs and stuff like that. It's just you kind of now you see what happens kind of because it's like you have the SEC, you have the Big Ten. Like outside of that, I mean, maybe one of these years we'll talk about a Cinderella, just like in college basketball where you'll see what was that school out of what was it? I think it was New Jersey. And it was like it's going to escape me, but they went like all the way to I think the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight. And
are you thinking Loyola Chicago?
No, but I mean, that's another example. That's a good example.
Another one.
Shoot, I can't. St. Francis. It wasn't St. Francis.
Oh,
I don't
St.
know.
Peters. You're thinking
St. Peters. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna disrespect SMU and call them like St. Peters, but let's say like Boise State, I guess would be the closest thing. Like just a very small conference team making a run all the way through it.
Yep.
That kind of changes things, but like realistic, like if Boise State had to go against Ohio State, I would give them like 0. I wouldn't even give them. I maybe I give them 5% if half the people on Ohio State get injured. Like
Ashton Genty goes for 500.
Yeah, and like I still don't see that happening either because their defense will just swallow. Like,
yep.
It gets to the point where like not to be disrespectful to these programs, but it's like men among you watch it and you feel like it's men among boys. Like you thought Tennessee was men among boys against Ohio State. Like it's just Clemson even, and Clemson's a big school. Like it's a big program, good football program. Won some national championships not that long ago, but you line them up and it's just like they're not. Maybe all depends on recruiting and going forward. And I'm not saying they're never gonna have a chance, but in this current construction, like I looked at the odds of like all the favorites, and they were all heavily favored, and the spreads were pretty big. Like I didn't really see a path for. I mean, you get if you're a fan of one of these teams, you probably get a little bit nervous. Well, what if they do this? What if they do? But like Indiana got routed. SMU. I mean, they played well, like you said, defensively, offensively they were horrible. Like Tennessee that just could not keep pace with Ohio State. And then Clemson, kind of same thing with Texas. Like, I don't know how you fit. Like, your idea is the only one that I can kind of point to that I like. I don't know. Maybe we'll see closer competitive, better games going forward with better. Like, if one of these teams gets a top flight quarterback, a Clemson or whatever, like one of these just generational quarterbacks or something like that. But right now, yeah, I think this is just what you live with for the time being. I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, because Anthony, he said in the comments there, I was thinking, do you agree with the rankings for the playoffs or doing strength of schedule? What do you penalize though? Do you penalize a team like Alabama? Yeah, their strength of schedule was good, right? But do you penalize the loss to Vanderbilt, the loss to Tennessee, the loss to Oklahoma, who stunk? Are you going to penalize that or are you going to let that go, right? Ole Miss, same boat. Like Ole Miss, yes, Ole Miss and Alabama, both those teams are better than SMU and Indiana. Yeah, I would agree with that. Those teams are better. But can you penalize a team like SMU for losing in their conference championship game? And can you penalize a team like Indiana for losing one game all season long on the road in Columbus against Ohio State? Can you penalize those two things? And I don't think you can, because otherwise you're penalizing Indiana for playing their conference schedule and you're penalizing SMU for playing in their conference championship game. You can't. You cannot penalize those things. So the rankings for the playoffs are the rankings for the playoffs, and it's called win your games. At the end of the day, it's win your games. And that's something that Alabama, Ole Miss, both those two teams, they stunk. They stunk it up. And I don't know. There is no fixing it right now. I don't think there is no fixing it. This format is how it's going to be. And like we said, I think the only way to do it is to fix it by seeding them due to rankings. And then that would make the first round games a lot better, but the second round would still be, I don't know what we'd see there. SMU, who did they play good? I was looking at SMU's schedule that day. I couldn't remember off the top of my head there.
They hung with Clemson, but lost to Clemson.
Yep, that was that conference championship game.
Conference champion. They hung with BYU. They lost by a field goal. Yeah, I mean,
outside of that, they beat everybody else. They beat Pitt, who I feel like Pitt they were flirting with the top 25 all season long. So you got them. Louisville knocked off some good teams during the regular season, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't they? They hung with Miami. I know that. Louisville did beat Clemson. They hung with Miami. They lost to Notre Dame close. I mean, I don't know. Like, yes, I agree. Who did Indiana beat that was good?
yeah, really.
Right? Right?
That's the
Well, we
big
can
one.
play this game
Yeah.
all day long, but it also has to come down to who did Alabama lose to? Oklahoma sucks. I don't know why. Like, that loss is a bad loss. Like, when we get to the end of the regular season and conference tournaments for basketball, right? We get to March. They look at good wins. They look at bad losses, right? Because bad losses are in that same boat too. That's how they figure out their rankings. What were their bad losses? And when you look at that, that's what we got to look at here too. What were your bad losses? And those were all bad losses. Did SMU have a bad loss? And when I look at their record, no, they didn't have a bad loss. They lost to Clemson in the conference championship. If you want to penalize them for the conference championship game, that would stink, because then why would you want to make it there? You want to penalize them for the loss to BYU by 3 early on in the season, be my guest. But outside of that, you can't penalize them for anything else, right? So it's the question of then what do we penalize teams for? I think it goes off good wins and bad losses, right? You can have a great strength of schedule, but if you lose to some subpar teams, and no, we cannot sit here and say that the bottom of the SEC is that stinking good. I absolutely hate when I have to hear that. Oh, the SEC, the bottom half is so good that even if the top half loses to them, it's not a bad loss. No, it's a bad loss. That is a bad loss. I don't know why. That'd be like saying, oh, well, Wisconsin went and beat Penn State, and that's a bad loss. But since, Alabama lost to Oklahoma and the SEC is so deep, that's a good loss. That's a good loss. No, it's not a good loss. They have a terrible record. They're a terrible team, right? It doesn't just work both narratives there. I get the SEC is a good conference. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's top end. The top end's good. The bottom end, I'm not saying that is a good conference at the bottom end. They have some solid teams at the back half of it, but I'm not sitting here and saying that those are great teams, right? Ole Miss had that loss to Kentucky. Kentucky was down this year. So we cannot, we're all Lane Kiffin. I saw he tweeted the other day, and he's tweeting all about these games and how they should have been in. Guess what? Win your games. Plain and simple. You win the games you're supposed to win. It wasn't like if Alabama would have lost to Georgia, nobody's talking about that loss. Nobody's talking about the loss to Georgia. People are talking about, why did you lose that game to Oklahoma? Why did you lose that game to not Tennessee, but Vanderbilt? Why'd you lose that game to Vanderbilt, right? Those are the losses you're looking at, not the other ones. So, I hate it. You were going to get this anyways, and you're going to have to listen to people complain. And this is exactly what I wanted to avoid. I said it Friday on the show. I was like, I want to avoid listening to fans talk about this crap. I wanted to avoid seeing Alabama fans and all of them across social media. That's what we got.
Absolutely. Yeah, the more these games became, I should say, a blowout, like the fact that they weren't close now, like you said, on our last show on Friday there, like it opens the floodgates for Alabama and Ole Miss and all these schools, like you had mentioned. It's I don't know. You're never going to have a perfect system. And like these teams, like even if I'm let's say Wisconsin fan, they're right on the edge of making it and they don't, or a Penn State fan right on the edge and making it and they don't. Like after the fact that they're not in, like if I'm just like, I think that's Bush League for Lane Kiffin to do that. It's like, dude, you didn't. It's like somebody that gets ejected. A manager gets ejected and they're like, you can't throw me out. It's like, what, the bridge has already been crossed. Like you're not in the college football playoff. I just, that bothers me a little bit, because like you said, if you want to complain that much and cry about it that much, you should have figured out a way to win the games. Like control what you can control, and then you might have a case. But like there's teams out there like Alabama, 3 losses, not good losses, and they're like not only their fans, but like when you see it more so bothers me when it comes from like a coach or like somebody actually associated with the program. That's so Bush League to me. It's like,
yep.
Just man up and do better next year. Like I just, even if it was my team, like maybe as a fan, I might say something differently, but like a head coach, like, come on, like really, like just deal with it. Like I don't know what else because what you crying and complaining and doing all that. The committee doesn't. They're not going to. Well, Lane Kiffin he complained so much. We're going to let Ole Miss in now. Like that's not how it works. Like I don't know. That's just me. But I mean, I get it. I understand the frustration. If you're one of these programs, but you're not in. You're just not in. So.
No, and that's what I was trying to avoid, right? I was like, please just be good games. Please be good games so I don't have to hear it. And that's first night after Friday night. I was like, yep, here we go. Go on Twitter. I'm going to see it all. And that's what we got. A lot of people complaining. Alabama, Ole Miss should have been in. Indiana sucks. What good win did they have? I was like, just stop. Just stop. Aaron, you got a whole lot of tapping going on over on the other side.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Jeez Louise.
I'm hitting up the TikTok thing trying to make us grow. That's
no, you're good.
It's bouncing off my desk, and
I was like, "What is that tapping noise?" And I see you over there. I'm like, "All right, that's good enough." That's good enough so pretty good stuff across the board there. I wanted to check out the transfer portal right now. I was looking at the 2025 transfer portal team rankings. So see where. Oh, we did have one more question there before we get on. Anthony had one more. Would you make the playoffs smaller to 8 teams or bigger to 16 or 32? Smaller. If I was going to go with it, I would say smaller. I think they went too big to begin with. I would have gone 8 teams would have been suffice, right? Because like we just mentioned before, I mean, you look realistically at the teams that you have in college football right now, there was realistically, 6 teams that I named off where like those teams could win a national championship. Outside of that, probably not. You're still, if you do 8, you're still awarding, let's just say, a team like Boise State or Arizona State for winning their conference titles while still getting your best teams in. Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Georgia. You would still have your room for Alabama when they lose a game or two, and then we have to listen to the fans complain. You would still have room for all those teams in there with an 8-team playoff. And I think it would be more competitive. I do. I really think it'd be more competitive. So I'd be fine with 8. I also saw a format where they were talking about conference championship games, play yourself into the tournament field. I thought that was pretty cool to look at. Like you'd have like the Big Ten championship of Ohio State and Oregon. The winner gets to go into the college football playoff field. The loser's out. And then you'd go like the ACC championship, Clemson and SMU. Winner moves on, loser gets out. Like I thought that was a pretty cool like format. I don't think it would work, but I thought it was a pretty cool format to look at. And then Anthony did say, is the quarterback from Texas going to transfer back to Ohio State?
Oh,
Quinn Ewers?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, Ewers, yeah.
I think he's, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he's going to go to the draft. I'm pretty sure he's going to go to the draft. I cannot foresee that they're going to prolong Arch Manning's development or his ability to get in another year. Like he already proved this season when Quinn Ewers is out that he can go out and win football games and do some good stuff in between the lines. I don't expect him to keep Arch Manning as a backup quarterback for much longer. So I think he's going to, I think he's going to be in. I think Quinn Ewers will probably declare for the draft if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he's going to go back to Ohio State. I really don't. I wouldn't. If I was Quinn Ewers, I would have probably stayed at Texas, if anything, because you have just as good opportunity at Texas as you do probably at Ohio State there. Brantley Gilbert, there's Brantley Gilbert. What did you think about Bevo not being allowed to go on the field in the SEC championship game? Well, he tried to kill Uga last time he was on the field. So, I mean, it was probably like a probation kind of thing. Like, let's keep him under wraps for this one. I mean, I get it, right? You have a live bull out there. He tries to kill the mascot of the other team. You probably want to play, precautionary things on that one. So, I mean, yeah, I was sad to see him, but it was good to see him out there for this last one when they had the home game there. It was good to see him back out in the field. He was probably, I'm going to be honest with you, I think my wife said something about it too. She's like, that poor guy, he couldn't go out there. And I was like, he's probably fine. He's like, thank God they left me alone for this one. Like, I don't have to go out there. Like, I can just chill in my stall, my little pen here. I can eat my hay. I don't got to do nothing all day long. Probably good with it. Probably good. Because I've seen, when they load them Longhorns up, their horns, I mean, they're so freaking long and they don't have a trailer that wide. So when those Longhorns load themselves, they actually figure out how to turn their head, and they have to turn their head just to get up into the trailer. And then when they get out, they have their head cocked and then they have to get out that way. I would rather not ride in a trailer like that. I'll be honest with you. So, I mean, he was probably okay with not having to go down to Atlanta, Georgia for that SEC championship game and have to cock his head for that long drive. Like, that's a long ways. That's a long ways to go there. I'm a horns up guy, Bradley. I'm a horns up.
Yeah.
Hook 'em, baby. Hook 'em, right?
I don't know about the horns down. I'm with you.
It's an Oklahoma thing. It's an Oklahoma thing, and they just do it to try and irritate Texas people. I mean, I've always been Wisconsin first, Texas second. Like, those are my two favorite teams. That's how I've always been.
There's a little theme, and there's a theme there because I mean, I know you told me before, like the Texans would be your second squad. I think. Yeah. It's been a while since we talked about that.
JJ Watt. When Brett Favre retired, I was like 10 years old, right? Now I was like at that point where you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, right? And you're like, who am I going to cheer for? And I thought JJ Watt came out of Wisconsin, went down to the Texans there, and I was like, I like JJ. I like the Texans now. So I followed him down to the Texans there, became a little bit of a Texans fan, still stayed with that. And Brantley, this is the stuff that starts fights here. This is the stuff that starts fights. All right, get
big
out.
Ohio guy.
Done with you. Done with you, Brantley. We like Cody Johnson more than Brantley Gilbert, anyways. So we're done with you. Done with you over there. But let's move on. Let's get on with it here. Let's get on with it. Anthony did say Dylan Gabriel didn't declare for the draft. Don't tell me he's going back to school like Bo Nix. I mean, if you have the option and you look at the draft board and you're like, I would not want to go play for this team, maybe, right? Shedeur Sanders is probably going to be up there in the picks right now. Besides Shedeur Sanders, I don't know who's going to be the next best quarterback going into that draft at this very moment, because Jalen Milroe, I don't trust him. I mean, I look across the draft board. I'm like, who is going to be the next guy? I don't know. I don't know. So it will be interesting. I don't know what Dylan Gabriel is going to do there, but he's going to be very, very similar to a Bryce Young, small, a little bit shorter. What's that going to look like in the NFL? We'll see. I don't trust lefties. I've never trusted a lefty quarterback. So we'll see how he does in there. But I wanted to look at quick here the 2025 transfer portal team rankings. I had them up the other day. I was looking at them, see where everybody's kind of ranked at this moment. So, well, because it intrigued me because the Badgers are up on that ranking. So that's why it intrigued me the most. The Badgers are ranked number 6 right now in the transfer portal rankings so far for the 2025 season. Aaron, if you had to guess who the number 1 team is, according to 24/7 Sports.
Oh, man.
If you had to guess, who would be your guess for number 1? I'll give you a hint. It's not in the SEC. It's not in the Big Ten. It's not in the ACC. And it's not in the dismantled Pac-12.
Trage, I hate to say it. When you started talking about this, I went on and
I
ruined the surprise. I know who it is.
Game on me here.
I didn't know I was going to play the guessing game, or I definitely wouldn't have done this, but I do know who it is, unfortunately. So.
Texas Tech.
Interesting.
That surprised me, but they do have 7 4-stars. 7 4-star transfer portal ads coming in. That's impressive. So good for Texas Tech. Kind of a down. It's been down for a little while now for Texas Tech. They've been relevant, but not relevant at times. They've got some wins. They've been in the news a little bit, but nothing crazy. And I mean, to see them up there, that's good. I mean, good for Texas Tech. LSU comes in that 2 spot, Ole Miss in the 3, Auburn in that 4 spot, Mississippi State in the 5. So you got a lot of SEC power down there in that top 5 there. But we get to number 6, Wisconsin. Wisconsin comes in at number 6. And I look at it, they got 10 3-stars, 2 4-stars coming in there. I mean, and this is what I've seen a lot of people complaining because they're like, oh, well, Wisconsin, they're just bringing in a lot of these guys from, nothing colleges, right? These are nothing college guys coming in there. Yeah, I would agree. But you have a lot of that, right? You're going to have a lot of guys who are moving college to college at this point where they're coming from lesser colleges, right? And I thought I had a tweet earlier that I saw about the transfer portal, why guys enter the transfer portal. And it was essentially, there was 4 reasons. I can't remember what the guy's reasons were off the top of my head here. But he basically said, like, you don't like the situation that you're in. Or no, you're a lesser college wanting to move to a bigger college. And then he had on there, like, you didn't like the role that you had or you wanted more NIL money. And then there was another one in between there. But the Badgers are getting a lot of guys who are coming from lesser colleges up. And you're going to have that. All colleges, you're going to look across them, they're going to have that. Now you're going to look at, okay, what's the talent that's coming in, right? You have Matt Young, a safety coming in. I believe he was at, I can't remember. I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. He was at
Matt Jung, Baylor. Yeah, Matt Jung, Baylor.
No, not Bethel College.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Bethel College. And yeah, I was just, because I had him written down the other day there. But he's coming from Bethel College, right? Nobody's ever heard of that. But this guy, I mean, if you actually watch the tape on him, he led his team in tackles. He's got a ton of explosiveness. He's going to help in the back end of that defense. Maybe he's not going to be, I'm not expecting him to be playing on Sundays, right? That's not the kind of guy I'm getting there. But he's going to be a solid add in the back end of that defense. Mark Hamper coming in there. I believe Mark Hamper is from Idaho. I mean, a solid 6'2", wide out there, 210 pounds. He's going to be able to go get you some balls. These guys have played, like Mark Hamper played in some bigger games. He's seen some bigger opponents there, and he's had some good games against them. So Mark Hamper, wide receiver, he's rated as a 4-star coming in through the transfer portal there. So a pretty good ranking for him. Billy Edwards Jr., you love that, signing the quarterback there from Maryland. We talked about Billy Edwards. We said, you put him on a good team, we think this guy could do some things. He's not a bad quarterback. You put him into a good system, he can be a guy. And the best part is, he's played in Big Ten football. He understands Big Ten football. This isn't like you're going from a mid-major school to the Big Ten. You're going from a Big Ten school to a Big Ten school. And I like the move. I like the Billy Edwards Jr. coming in there. You have Daniel O'Neal. He's coming over from San Diego State there, the quarterback. He's a younger guy. Really haven't seen much out of him yet. He's going to be a depth piece. He's going to be a developmental project, right? He's not going to be a year one starter. We're kind of expecting Billy Edwards Jr. to be that guy at this point. He's going to be that year one, or it's going to be his last season. He's going to be that bridge quarterback that we talked about that day to get Carter Smith, to get some of these other guys some experience underneath them before you just throw them into the fire there. Charles Perkins coming in. I mean, he's a UT Martin guy. You have Parker Peterson. He's a Tulane guy. You have Matthew Traynor, the safety, Richmond guy. Antreon Turner, the linebacker, Western Carolina, right? I mean, you have a lot of guys coming from small colleges, and I've seen a lot of people, and they're like, oh, well, they're not. Why are we getting so excited about this and everything else? You know what? Because you need something to get excited about, right? You need something to get excited about. And when it comes to the transfer portal, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of these moves. But the thing with it is I'm looking at a lot of these guys, watching them play. And if you really watch the tape on these guys, you can see where their skill is going to be able to transfer over to the Wisconsin team. You're not expecting them to be that star, but you're going to expect that Wisconsin can utilize their skills. Otherwise, why the heck would they have recruited this guy to come into Madison? They wouldn't have. And at this point, in this day and age of the NIL, these are the guys you're going to get if you're Wisconsin, because you're not a money destination. You're not. You don't have that boatload of money. So you can't sit there and say, well, I'm going to get, if Jalen Milroe decided tomorrow, like, hey, I'm going to transfer, Wisconsin's not going to be the number one team on his list to go to if he's looking for NIL money. No way. These guys are looking for a step up. Those are the guys that Wisconsin are going to be dealing with. That's just, I mean, the harsh reality. It is the harsh reality of the transfer portal. They did get from Kentucky, Tyrese Fearbry. He's an edge rusher there from Kentucky, 6'5", 225. I mean, we're talking about defensive line last year for the Badgers, how much it stunk. They've focused a lot on that defensive line. Now they have to focus a lot more on the secondary because their cornerback room, I believe, has like 3 guys left in it at this point, and nobody has heard from Ricardo Hallman. So who knows if he's coming back for his last year. But outside of him, I mean, we got basically the whole thing is depleted. Xavier Lucas, right now, Wisconsin won't even sign his papers to transfer at this point here. It's past the 48-hour window. We're talking about tampering with Miami there. That's what the talks are. As I saw, Miami was where he was going to go. Miami recruited him out of high school. He ended up going up to Madison. Now he decides to leave Madison, and Miami's on the hot list to get him. They're accusing Miami of tampering. It's just a disaster. That's what it is. This transfer portal, this free agent, Wild West crap show that we've been seeing right now, it is just a disaster. Like, this is, I want to say it's fun. I do. I really do. It's fun to see all the moving pieces and everything like it. But at the same time, it's a crapshoot. Like, this is just, I mean, how do you keep up? Like, at one point, and I've seen a lot of posts about it, it's like, I don't even care anymore, right? You're basically like, these guys are going to transfer in, those guys are going to transfer out. And then when we get to the regular season, we're going to have a new team on the field, and we're just going to have to, learn new faces, right? Learn a new scheme, learn new faces. Like, that's how it's going to be. And it's going to be repetitive every single year. We're going to see moving pieces in and out. We're not going to know who's back. You might get Carter Smith for this year, but who knows, right? And knock on wood, he stays around, right? But you don't know. You have no idea. It's basically, if you don't play these guys, right, you have to pick your 4 stars coming in, right? Jalen Williams, the defensive lineman. You have to almost play him, because if he feels like he was better than the guy in front of him and you don't play him, he's gone. He's just going to walk away. And that's just how it is now. You have to pick, like, if you have 10 4-star recruits, you have to pick, like, if you want to keep 7 of them, you have to pick 7 of them and play them. You have to play them. That's just how it is. And they'll develop on the field. But what else can you do? I mean, you can try to put your best talent on the field, or you can put your best future talent on the field and let them work, because otherwise they're probably going to walk away.
No, absolutely. And like, looking at it, Billy Edwards, like, originally he goes to Wake Forest, then transfers out, goes to Maryland, then transfers out, goes to Wisconsin. Like, how many guys are you going to see? And I'm like, I actually like Billy Edwards too. I liked him at Maryland. I think he can play. It's just how many of these guys are going to, and I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but like, we kind of talked about, I don't know if it's like old man get off my lawn type of thing, but like, I mean, we saw it before, like what Russell Wilson came over to Wisconsin for 1 year there.
Yep.
But it's rare. Like, when you would see that type of thing, it was rare. It was like, okay, Penn State has Drew Aller. He's going to be there for 3 or 4 years. Whatever team it is, right? It goes on and on and on. But now, like, you see, even Joe Burrow was a transfer out of Ohio State to LSU. And like, this was before the transfer portal got, what it is today. Like, this new just way of college football is so much different. I think I'm in lockstep with you as far as I don't like it overall. Like, I understand why a player would do it, put yourself in the best situation to make money in the NFL or basically to get snaps. I mean, some of these guys like Bo Prabula, you weren't going to get snaps next year. As soon as he found out Allard's coming back, okay, I'm going to hit the portal. Yeah. And like, I get it. I mean, but some of these, I mean, I'm sure it sucks for some of these kids too, though. It's like, how many kids committed to Wisconsin to play at Wisconsin, things didn't go well. So they're like, I'm out. And now they're like, that's life, right? It's like getting a job. Oh, I hate this job. Well, if you hate the job so much, you're going to leave. Like, it's just like that. It's just, you're turning amateur sports into professional sports in the aspect of, this is free agency. Like, this is the closest thing we'll get to. I mean, basically it's 1A, 1B with this transfer portal and free agency. And I don't know. It's interesting. Another thing, like with those rankings, I'm not going to say they're wrong or anything, but once again, like, how many of these guys pan out too? Like, let's say, some of these kids that go to Texas Tech suck, and some of these kids that end up at Wisconsin are better. Like, I'd like to compare this list almost like at season's end. Like, okay, let's say Texas Tech finishes number 1 in the transfer portal, acquisition list of talent there. Like, does it translate? And then some of these guys, like, if they're going to Texas Tech from a more prestigious program, that, like, psychologically, how do you adapt to that? Okay, what if Texas Tech isn't good? And it's going to be interesting. It's a lot of moving pieces. Like, it's just completely changing everything about how the game is played. Like, not even so much played, just like how the sport operates. Like, from a player standpoint and from like coaching. I mean, not to throw shade on some of these teams, but not many of these teams on that list are teams that are in the college football playoff, because you got to think that's like, how do you keep up with all that and be in the college football playoff? Like, I guess you give these teams an advantage in a way, like a Wisconsin, right? They're not in the college football playoff. Texas Tech not in the college. Like, do those teams get to sit down with these kids, just have more time and accessibility and hope it translates next year. I mean, there's probably some of that for sure, but
Yeah, and if you're in the playoffs, you have, Oregon's ranked 7th on the list, so you have Dan Lanning, or he's going around trying to recruit guys. Well, he's trying to coach his guys through a college football playoff. Same with, like Penn State, James Franklin out there. You have all these teams who are getting ready for bowl games, getting into the college football playoff. They're still recruiting. They still have to keep recruiting the guys that are currently in their room because otherwise those guys are going to leave. So you're playing. It's a I don't like the game. I don't. I think it's actually bad for what we've been seeing so far. I mean, I don't hate the transfer portal. I don't. I think there's got to be some kind of regulations. I think there has to be some kind of control over it. I think there has to be control over how many times you can transfer, right? Because we talk about a guy like AJ Storr last season with the Badgers. I believe Kansas is his 4th stop in his career so far in college basketball. 4 stops. That's ridiculous. Like, that is a ridiculous amount of stops that a guy can have there. I just wanted to make sure I was right there because I believe he was on – oh, there he is. He was on St. John's before he came to Wisconsin. So he went St. John's to Wisconsin, now Kansas. So this is his 3rd team. If he doesn't like it at Kansas, which they don't like him too much so far, he's going to end up transferring out of there, end up someplace else. And then from there, I think there has to be some kind of regulations. You can transfer so many times in your career. If you transfer year after year, penalize the guys. Say if you transfer, you get two or three. Let's give them 2 or 3. And if you try to transfer a 4th time, you have to sit out 1 year. Sit out 1 whole year and then go from there. I mean, that's how I would do it. And try to create some kind of, and you're not going to be able to do it now. And like we said, the biggest thing is that when you opened up the floodgates for this, you didn't just crack it, you blew the whole darn thing up. And when you blow the whole darn thing up, you're screwed. Like, that's just how it was. And that's where we're at right now. How do you go? You took 20 steps forward. How do you take 15 back to fix it? I don't think you do. The NCAA is not going to do it because guess what? They're just making money. They don't care. They don't care if Wisconsin suffers. They don't care because guess what? Oregon will be fine. Ohio State will be fine. Penn State will figure it out. Kansas will figure it out in basketball. Duke's always going to figure it out. North Carolina will figure it out. And guess what? They're still going to make money. So who cares, right? But it's for those small schools that it's going to start to affect. And then you're not going to always have that even playing field. And it's going to suck. I mean, it's going to suck. And it's going to become kind of what we see in the NFL. Not so much the NFL. I'd say more. I compared it to the MLB the other day. I compared it to the MLB. You have your big schools that can afford a lot, and then you have your small schools like, let's just say, Wisconsin or, I don't know if Indiana would be considered
Northwestern or something.
Northwestern, Illinois. They're going to be feeder teams, right? You're going to build guys up in those feeder teams, and then all of a sudden Alabama's going to be like, hey, Wisconsin's got that cornerback over there who he's pretty darn good, but he ain't making crap at Wisconsin. Let's call him up. Let's say, hey, you come down here. We got some money for you. We'll set you aside. We'll get you fixed up. I mean, you can't compete in it. You can't compete in a league like that, right? There's no loyalty. There's no loyalty in college football anymore. There's no for the team in college football anymore. At this point, it is everybody for themselves. Where's the most money at? That's where it is. And that's why I'm saying with Wisconsin getting a lot of these small school guys, those guys are just going to be happy to play for a Division I team of relevance. Right. And I'm not even saying Wisconsin's that relevant in the world of sports right now, but just to play for a team where they're like, this is a competitive Division I football team that is in the Big Ten and I get to play for them. Right. So they're going to play. They're going to ball out. They're going to give you everything they got. Those are the guys that you have to rely on this point, and recruits. Right. But those are the guys that you have to rely on if you're a team like Wisconsin at this point here. So we'll see what kind of the offseason brings here for Wisconsin. We'll keep up to date on the transfer portal, see if there's any big rumblings or anything big coming into the Badgers anytime soon here. Hopefully, right? We need some cornerback. We need some secondary help. I mean, we have a help wanted sign up, and it's going to be up there for a little while yet, right? We have to fix that one because you cannot go into a season there with a lot of freshmen and not so experienced, not as much experience, I guess, in that secondary is what I'm trying to say there. So we're going to get an ad here. We're going to get to a couple of sponsors of the show here quick. We'll get to that. We'll come back. We'll talk Badger basketball because Badgers, they got a pickup game on Sunday, and we're going to talk about that when we come back here. So we'll see you on the other side of the ad break.
This show is brought to you by these fantastic sponsors. Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in to see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville. Next, we have Sport and Spine Clinic of Greenwood. Have you been injured recently, whether it was at work, shoveling snow, or mowing the lawn? Stop in and see Chad at Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. He will get you right, get you back to work, back to shoveling snow, back to mowing the lawn, doing whatever you were doing, feeling better than ever. And then we have Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply in Onalaska to help your team get the sweetest gear.
Great stuff there. Make sure you guys are checking them out. We share them across the Facebook page. We'll share them across TikTok eventually here when I get time to share it across TikTok, Twitter, everywhere else. Make sure you're following us there and checking them out. Great sponsors that we have here of the show. So let's get into this game, Wisconsin and Detroit Mercy. And I said it before we went to break there. It felt like a pickup game, like when this game was, I was today, about to leave my grandma's house, got done feeding the cows and everything like that. And I was like, I'm going to go home. I'll watch Badgermbb. And well, my grandpa, he always picks timely times to break things, right? So he breaks the spreader on me. So I'm out there fixing the manure spreader, get that all fixed up. And I'm like, I'm missing the Badgermbb, right? And I get home and I flip it on and I'm like, okay, it's a 13-point game at the half. And, went back and got YouTube TV now. You got rid of Fubo, got YouTube TV the other day. Got it because you can watch multi-view games now. So I can watch 2 football games, whatever football games are on at the same time, watch them all at the same time. It's just awesome. It's just awesome. So got that so I could rewatch the first half. So I went back, watched the game over again. And when I tell you, this game felt like I was watching a Sunday pickup game. It felt like I was watching a pickup game down at the park. Like, that's what I was watching. It was like Sunday afternoon. The guys are like, let's go down to the park and let's ball out a little bit here. That's what we were watching in this one. Like, it was low energy. Just, you got the win. You knew that you were better than them, but there was nothing. It wasn't like, you go into, I love college basketball. It always gets me excited to watch, right? Especially when it's the Badgers. I'm always excited watching college basketball. But watching this was like, am I watching a pickup game right now? Like, what's like the only thing missing was shirts versus skins. Like, that's all I'm missing for this thing to be a pickup game down at the park, right? So, I mean, that's the way that it felt, right? But we're still going to talk about it. It was still a good win by the Badgers. They took care of their business, right? This is a long stretch with, I think it was 19 days with 1 game or something like that mixed in there. Like, that's a long stretch with 0 games mixed in there. So get the win. And we talked about it here Friday on the show. We said the Badgers, they got to dominate the paint, right? That's the big thing they got to do in this game. They have size advantage, dominate the inside, then figure it out from there. That's what they did. They took care of their business on the inside. And, I mean, what was the final total there? 36-14 points in the paint. 36 points in the paint for the Badgers. That's what we wanted to see. We wanted to see them dominate inside. That's what they did for us in this one. Dominated the rebounding 50-34 in this game here. They also, along with that, I believe had 16 offensive rebounds the Badgers had in this one. That's all around dominating the glass. So you love to see that there. The one thing that I came out of this game, we talk about this guy all the time, and I can't figure it out. Max Klesmit went scoreless again in this game. I don't know. I'm when I watch him, like watching him today, it just felt like he's out of it. It just felt like Max Klesmit wasn't there. Like, he's like dogging. He's like kind of there, kind of not. He's not even looking for shots anymore. He's trying to create. It's like when he does try to shoot, he's trying to create too hard. It's the game is coming hard to him right now. It is coming hard to him. And that happens. You're going to have stretches where you're going to go over these stretches and the game is going to almost seem like it's impossible. Like, you can't figure that thing out. And that's where Max Klesmit's at right now. He is just all around struggling. I don't know how else to put it with him at this moment, but Max Klesmit has got to start playing. I mean, I'm not expecting Max Klesmit to be I'm not expecting him to be he's averaging 12 a game, right? But I'm not asking this guy to be a 15 to 18 to 20 point scorer a night, right? But he's got to be a factor. And outside of the defensive end, he's not a factor for me right now. No points in this game, which, like I said, it's a pickup game, so I wasn't really overly concerned with this one. But you go over the last few games for him. Butler, he had 11 points in that one. Illinois, he gave you 13. Marquette, he had 22. But then you look before that, Michigan, he had 8. Chicago State, he had 6. 7 against Pitt. He had 8 against UCF. I mean, from where he was to start the season to what we're seeing now and the shooting percentage that's going along with it, we talk about that Michigan game, 1 for 9 from downtown in that game. We look at the Chicago State game, 1 for 7, 1 for 5 against Pitt. He was 6 for 11 against Marquette. I mean, if we could play Marquette every day of the week, Max Klesman would be averaging like 100, but we can't play a Marquette every day of the week. Illinois, 2 for 5, 1 for 6 against Butler, and 0 for 3 against Detroit Mercy. The 3-point percentage is down. The field goal percentage is down for him there. These last 2 outings here against Butler, he shot 14% from the field. And against, I mean, yeah, well, he had 0 points. So you guys can figure out how well he shot against Detroit Mercy there. But we're talking about a guy who he's not a star, right? John Blackwell's your star. John Tonje's your star. Those are your stars. Crowell, Nolan Winter's developing to a star. I mean, his last 3 games, he's had 17 points a game, 8.7 rebounds, and he's shooting 54% from the field. So Nolan Winter is turning into a dog for you. But outside of that, those are your guys, right? Crowell, Klesman, your bench guys, they need to be role players. They need to contribute, but they need to find ways to contribute. Right now, Max Klesman's not contributing for you. So I don't know what it is, right? I don't know what it is. And that's something that I'm hoping that he figures out. I'm hoping that guard can figure out. Find a way to involve him, right? Find a way to involve him. Whether it's, we talk about it, it's not the same, right? But it's like football, right? We talked about with Dontavian Wicks with all of his drops. Give him something simple to catch first, right? Give him something simple. Find a way to get Max Klesman a simple shot at the basket. Something simple, going to the rim. Get that one to fall. You see that ball hit the bottom of the net, you're going to feel confident in yourself again. Then you find a way to get him involved in the jump shot game, right? Then you find a way to get him back out to that 3-point line. You got to find ways to incorporate his game, what he's good at, into what we're doing right now. And that's something that I feel like they're trying, but I feel like almost Max Klesman's trying to kind of force the issue with it at this point. And when you force the issue, sometimes it gets even worse, right? We saw that against Michigan where he hadn't hit crap all night long, and all of a sudden the last 5 possessions where we needed a shot, Max Klesman's the one pulling it from 3. And he isn't hitting it. He's not hitting. He's not hitting. Confidence busted, right? That's a confidence killer. And that's something that how do you get his confidence back, right? And we talked about with Steven Crowell. How do you get his confidence back? Well, Greg Gard told him that he basically sucked in the press conference. And then all of a sudden, Big Steve comes out and he's like, all right, I suck. I'm going to go out and get you some, right? And he plays well against Butler, and he plays well again against Detroit Mercy. He should play well against Detroit Mercy, but he plays well, right? I hate when people are like, wow, he should be dominating in that game. You're right. He should be, and he did. That's the thing, right? You always see those doorknobs out there who always are like, wow, he should be dominating, right? Somebody makes a comment on Twitter or whatever, and they're like, well, Steven Crowell, he dominates in this one, 7 for 10 from the floor, had the first how many buckets of the game, had 15 points. Good day for him from the floor, dominating in the paint. And everybody's like, oh, well, he should be, right? They don't have size. Yeah, exactly. They didn't have size, so he dominated. Thank you, right? It's just so stupid. Sometimes people, you just want to kick them in the gym bag, right? But you can't. You can't. You got to hold back. So, I wasn't – I don't know what they do, right? But Max Klesman's got to figure it out. That's where I'm kind of at with him right now. John Tonje, 9 points in this game. He didn't really shoot, right? He didn't really shoot. He was 2 for 6 from the floor, 1 for 3 from downtown. He didn't really – this was, like I said, it was a pickup game, right? You had – Crowell was doing a lot of the shooting. Same with Blackwell. You had a lot of bench guys getting rotation minutes in there. It was one of those days where John Tonje's like, I can take a load off, right? He doesn't have to be the guy that day. Now, would you want to see John Tonje drop 30 points every single night? Sure, 100%. But this was a game where John Tonje could kind of take a step back and be like, hey, let's work through, Greg Gard even. He's probably like, let's do this. Let's work through this. Let's see different looks. Let's get guys different looks, right? Let's try to get Steven Crowell more involved. Let's try to get Nolan Winter. And I said it point blank. I said in this game, I would have let Max Klesman keep shooting until he couldn't shoot anymore. I would have said, let's run it for Kles. Let's get him confidence. Let's let him see one hit the bottom of the net, right? They didn't really do that in this one. And I don't think Klesman was really hunting for his shot a lot in this one. But that's something that I would have done, is try to incorporate him into a little bit, try to get his confidence back. But I mean, all in all, a solid win. It was great to see the bench guys get in there, get some scoring. Marcus Ilvers showed that he's got some range, right? That's something that you love to see off the bench there, see some guys knock down some triples, and that was Marcus Ilvers. He was 2 for 4 from distance in this one. I believe he got his career high in points with 8, which is good. That's great to see there. Ricardo Greppi had a point in this one. So did Chris Hodges had a point in this one. Xavier Amos had 4, 5 for Jack Janicki. So, I mean, you saw a lot of guys get involved in the scoring column, which is what we wanted to see in this one, right? We wanted to see the bench guys get meaningful minutes, see them get involved in the offense, see what kind of depth you have scoring-wise going into Big Ten play. And I kind of liked what I saw in this one. I mean, it was nothing crazy, nothing great. It wasn't like it was this crazy win. You dominated a team that you were supposed to dominate, and that's what you got to do, right? So, Aaron, any of the stats kind of stick out to you from this one?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much touched on like the out rebounding of Detroit Mercy's like to be expected, but they executed, right? Like I totally get where you're coming from, where it's they should do this, they should do that. Well, when they do, okay, that's what we look to build on. That's what we look to kind of allude to, because sometimes you'll come out against a team like this and it'll be a fight. Like you never know. Okay, we're gonna take them lightly for a half, and then it just. You never know what goes on in the psyche of these guys. Like they can say all the right things, and the media, is going to press them. Are you taking this team lightly? No, but then they do. Like you have some of that. The only thing I would say, now it's kind of skewed because, obviously Wisconsin, they're having the possessions they did. Like I'm sure, just having the basketball like a lot more than Detroit Mercy, but just the 10 turnovers. I mean, 10 turnovers. You want to limit that maybe a little bit, you know what I mean? But you're trying different things. You're out there. Like I don't have a major problem with it, because it's like you're just trying to be more creative than normal. Like you can like cut this team open like Swiss cheese. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not, you're not playing Duke. You're not playing Arizona even. You know what I mean? This is not top tier level competition by any means. So, but yeah, overall, I mean, once again, they shot pretty lights out, 17 and 19 from the free throw line. So you take that to the bank and deposit it. But I guess, if you're just like nitpicking stuff, I mean, 7 for 35 from 3, not great. Not something you want to build on. I mean, not something you want to continue, right? You want to just be better than that. But, you're not going to shoot great every night, but that's pretty low. But they dominate him, like you said. And the only other thing I would say with the Max Klesman thing is like, this is a game where you're like I'm almost, if I'm Greg Gard there, I'm like, shoot the ball, like take 8 shots. You know what I mean? Like once you have a sizable lead, like let this guy get his feet under him, let him build some type of confidence. Because you come out of this game, I don't care what he says in the media or anything else. You come out of a game like this with no points, it's like, it's like, okay, if I didn't put any shots up against this team, like what am I doing? Like the mental battle you're probably having with yourself, is probably not a great one. Like it's probably like, okay, this was a game he probably thought, you know what, I'm going to get back on track. And for whatever reason he didn't. And like, is it now turning into a mental thing where it's like, he's going to need a breakout game just to feel kind of like, okay, I can do this again. It messes with you. It's just like, you and I both played sports coming up, and it's one of those things. It's like, everybody is human at the end of the day. Like they might seem like robots and okay, all they do is play basketball. But when you struggle, and then if you're playing a team that is far less, competitive than you are, it's like, like why is this happening? You almost say, why can't I figure this out?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. This was that game. This was that game where I'm like, just go out there and figure it out. I don't care if it takes 20 shots to do it. Go out there and figure it out in this one. And you were talking to John Tonjake, Blackwell, Crowell, Winter. You're like, help him figure it out, right? Let's run some things for Kles. Let's get him something going downhill, everything like that. So, we had a question across the text-in line on this one, and it was thoughts on Amos thus far. So Xavier Amos, thoughts on him thus far. Think he should be seeing the floor more. So right now, I was going to look at his minutes per game. He's averaging about 9.7 minutes a game. Nothing crazy, right? Xavier Amos, to me, some nights he's hit or miss, right? Some nights I'm like, Xavier Amos could be a great shooter. He's got a lot of talent. He's got the ability to get downhill and get to the rim. Now, it's when he gets out of control. He has those times where he gets out of control. He makes dangerous decisions and everything like that. So that would be the only knock I would have on him. Defensively, I think he can play. I think he plays well defensively. I think he's got the ability to match on all three levels at times defensively, and he can match up. He can create mismatches with guards. He's 6'7", but he's got some athleticism to him. He's got the ability to match up in different ways. So that would be something that I would look to utilize. Scoring wise, I don't think he gives you your best shot, right? And I think Nolan Winter does right now. So it's a question of who do you give him the minutes over at this point? Like who on this roster could you say Xavier Amos should get more minutes than him? And I think what really hinders his minutes is Carter Gilmore. Carter Gilmore, to me, gives you more value than what I've seen out of Xavier Amos so far. Carter Gilmore gives you tenacity on the defensive end, gives you the rebounding. He's got the ability to spread the floor. I just think that he does the little things better than what Xavier Amos does. And I look ahead of him. I'm like, okay, so where do you give the minutes to, right? So John Tonje, John Blackwell, those are your guys. If you could, you'd never take him off the floor. Max Klesman, he's a leader. He's a leader. At this point, he's going to stay on the floor for you. He's actually averaging the most minutes out of anybody so far this season. So Max Klesman's the leader on the floor. He's going to stay out there. Steven Crowell, he's your big man, but he kind of rotates minutes. He has 23 minutes per game. Him and Nolan Winter, they start the game together, and then it seems like they kind of just rotate after that. So, I mean, with him, you're not putting him ahead of him there. Kamari McGee, he's not going over me. So your minutes that you're looking at are basically Gilmore, Winter, Crowell. And with those three guys, you're not getting the rotational minutes that you're looking for. So he's going to be a rotation piece. Will he be an extensive piece? I don't think so. I don't think he's there development-wise yet. I don't think he's developed enough to be that guy yet. He's going to get more minutes, right? You get into Big Ten play, guys get into foul trouble. He's going to have to come up big time, but he came from Northern Illinois there where, he was solid. Not saying he wasn't anything good at Northern Illinois. He's a solid ball player there. I just, right now, what I'm seeing, I don't see him as a everyday, this is like my 15 minutes per game guy. I don't see him as that. I think right now where he's averaging minutes per game, which, where did I read that off? 9.7 before. Around 10, yeah. Like, I'm leaving him there. I don't think he should get as many minutes as Gilmore. Actually, at times, I think Gilmore should get more minutes than what he does. So, rotationally wise, I just don't think he fits above those three guys at this very moment. Potentially, at some point, we will see him get more minutes in a game just because he's feeling it, or matchups require it. But outside of that, he's kind of where I expect him to be. At this point here. So, let's look over. I just want to look at the Big Ten standings at this point here. It's kind of skewed because we haven't played a lot of Big Ten games up until this point. But I kind of want to see where everybody else was sitting at this very moment, wins, loss-wise on the season. So right now, Michigan State, UCLA, both 10-2 on the year. Maryland's 10-2. Penn State, we watched them beat Purdue. They have a deep, feisty team, does Penn State, and they play well. So Penn State's going to be a team to watch out for. Michigan, we talked about them. Danny Wolf and Golden there. That is a dynamic duo right there. You have a 7-footer that can run the point guard. Good luck. Good luck guarding that. That's a matchup nightmare waiting to happen. So looking at that, Michigan 9-3, Ohio State 8-4, Purdue 8-4. Both of those teams, Ohio State and Purdue, if you look at the teams that they've played so far, they have played gauntlet of schedules to start the year. So Ohio State, I think they're better than the 8-4 that we've seen. They've played Texas. They played number 23 Texas A&M. They lost to Pitt, who the Badgers beat. So, Pitt's a good team. They lost to Maryland, who's a good team. They just came off a loss to Auburn, and then they won against Kentucky. So this is a good Ohio State team. They have just played a gauntlet of a schedule to start the year. And that, you're going to have those. You're going to have those, and I think it's only going to make Ohio State better. So they have a really tough, like I said, a really tough schedule that they've fought through so far here. And same with Purdue. You look at the 4 losses that they've had. They lost to Marquette. They lost to Penn State. They lost to Texas A&M, and they lost to Auburn. So, Yeah, we're talking about some great teams there that both these squads have lost to that have led to an 8-4 record. So don't let the record fool you with those two teams. They are some solid teams across the board. Bruce Thornton's fantastic, and Braden Smith for Purdue is still fantastic, and Coffin Wren has been playing great for Purdue to start this year. Purdue is just, I think they're still trying to figure out how to survive without Zach Edey, right? You have Zach Edey for so long and you get so used to him being around that the offense kind of flows through him. Then when he's gone, Coffin Wren's done a fantastic job. He's been playing well this year in the big spot. But when you don't have a guy like Zach Edey, it changes you. So I think they're still trying to settle into that. And once they do, I think they'll be fine. Rutgers 7-5. They just lost to Princeton the other day on a buzzer, not a buzzer beater, but a last second shot there by Princeton. It was a great game that we saw there. Iowa's no pushover, 9-3. Oregon's 11-1. They played solid this year. Nebraska 7-2, not bad at all. Northwestern 9-3. We have Indiana at 9-3. Illinois 8-3. Illinois, same thing. Look at who they've lost to. They've lost to some good teams on the way. Alabama, they lost that game. They lost to Northwestern, and they lost to Tennessee, who's the number one team in the country at the time there. So, I mean, you look at those games, those are, I mean, good losses, I guess. We were talking about it earlier, good losses. All in all, I mean, I look at the Big Ten Conference. Outside of Minnesota, who has struggled, outside of Minnesota, there's a lot of good teams in this Big Ten Conference. Now, we'll see how that fares out when we get to tournament play, right? Because the Big Ten always seems to be good, and then they get into tournament play and they kind of let us down. But I think this is going to be a competitive conference all season long, and that's why, like we talked about, we've talked about it many times with this conference schedule. You got to win your home games because going on the road in the Big Ten, it sucks. It's hard to win at Mackey. It's hard to win in College Park. It's hard to win anywhere on the road. So when you get home games like the Badgers, they're going to have a home game there against Iowa coming out of this break here. That's a game you got to have. You got to have that game against Iowa because right after that, you go on the road to Rutgers, you come back home, and then you have a little West Coast road trip there against USC and UCLA. You come back home for a game before you go on the road there and play Maryland and Northwestern. I mean, you got those home games in there. You got to take care of your home games because the road sucks in the Big Ten there. So a lot of good games coming up here. We got a little bit of a break now for Badger basketball. We're definitely going to talk about it more, but we got a little bit of break there for Wisconsin basketball. They'll be back in action on the 3rd of January when they take on Iowa there at home. So we'll get more into the Badgers here as this week goes on into next week there, and they get ready for that game against Iowa there. But Aaron, I wanted to talk a little bit of Brewers today, because I can't remember if you were on the show when I was talking about this the other day, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on it. So right away, I just wanted to mention, because we didn't talk about it the other day there, but a new lease agreement was signed for the Brewers there. So they will be in Milwaukee through 2050 there. Tony Evers said this is a home run, and it's a great day to Tony Evers, Wisconsin governor. If Aaron probably doesn't know that, he's from Pennsylvania, so he probably doesn't know that. But this is a home run, and it's a great day to be a Wisconsinite and a Brewer fan. I am incredibly proud of the good bipartisan work that has gone into getting to today and to ensure future generations of Wisconsinites can grow up rooting for our home team. The Brewers have long been a critical part of our Wisconsin and our heritage in Wisconsin. And with billions of dollars in annual economic impact and hundreds of local family supporter jobs. So, and basically just went on from there, but I don't want to read the rest of it because who cares? I mean, just basically, it's what we wanted to hear. Brewer baseball is staying in Milwaukee. It's going to be here through 2050. That's a new lease on the stadium there. Since 2001, AmFam, so American Family Field, has generated $2.5 billion in total economic output to the state of Wisconsin. So can you imagine losing something like that in the state? That would just be crucial. That'd be critical. That'd be a critical thing there. So, I mean, just great news that the Brewers are staying in Milwaukee there. So fantastic news there. I talked about it the other day. I wanted to get your take on it because I was talking about the Brewers. Now that Willie Adames is gone, right? You don't have his 32 home runs. You don't have that power bat, right? And now they bring in Durbin. He's not much of a power threat. You have Joey Ortiz. He's not much of a power threat. You have Bryce Terang, not much of a power threat. You have guys who can hit home runs: Rhys Hoskins, William Contreras, Christian Yelich, Garrett Mitchell, if he stays healthy. He's a home run guy. Jackson Chourio can hit some, but you don't have that dominant home run guy, right? You don't have that guy. So the question I was asked and was thinking about the other day and talking about was, if the Brewers don't go out and get a third baseman, right? Or a shortstop, whatever it is, a power guy, can you survive, right? And I said, I think you can. You're changing your philosophy, right? You're not going to be a home run hitting team. You're going to be a team that thrives off of contact and speed. You're going to look to steal bags. You're going to look to put the ball in play. That's kind of where you're going to be playing. You're going to be aiming at winning games that way. You're not going to have the big bats. You're going to have bats that can hit home runs. I think Rhys Hoskins is going to have a 25 to 30 home run year, right? Christian Yelich, hopefully the back's good. Maybe he gets back up into 25. William Contreras is always around that 25. Garrett Mitchell, if he stays healthy, we know that guy can hit home runs. We saw it in the wild card series there against the Mets. We know that guy can hit the long ball. Sal Frelick will give you some. Bryce Terang's going to hit some. Jackson Churiel, if he has another breakout year like he did this last year, he's going to give you some. But you don't have that dominant bat, right? That dominant power, the known power hitter in there who's going to give you a ton of RBIs. So my question, I guess, is do you believe the Brewers could go without going out there and grabbing a power bat for the third base spot? Like, do you think we've seen the success the Brewers have had throughout the years now, through these past couple of years in the NL Central, not so much the playoffs, but in the NL Central there. Do you believe that they could, in fact, rechannel that success, but in a different way?
If you're the way I look at it is like, if you're looking at it to go compete for the division, I think they can. To go, if you want to take this team from where they're at right now to, let's say, and I'm not going to, I don't want to say that they're not a World Series contender, because every team that makes the playoffs, realistically is. But do you want to be I don't know, it's so hard, right? Like the Dodgers are, you look at the NL, and the Dodgers are the creme de la creme. Like, there is nobody. The Phillies aren't the Dodgers. The Mets aren't the Dodgers. I mean, sure, these teams are trying, but right now it's the Dodgers and everybody else. Like, really it is. And, we even saw that with the AL. I mean, they took care of the best team in the AL that made it through, the Yankees in what, 5 games, not even 6. So, I mean, can the Brewers win the NL Central as constructed with, you talk about Woodruff coming back. The Devin Williams one is interesting. I mean, he was plagued by injuries last year, so it's not like they absolutely needed him last year to achieve what they did. So maybe you survive without that. I trust the Brewers to have a bullpen that is at least competitive, right? It's not top 5 or top 3 one of these years, but it's going to be decent. It's not going to be like bottom 5. Like, I can pretty much assure you that. So I think you can. I mean, it's a weird comparison because the Phillies kind of have just power everywhere. But Alec Boehm was never a guy that hits a lot of home runs, and he's the third baseman, right? But he's a doubles machine, like that guy, So if you can have a guy that I think you got to have a guy that gets on base. I know that's cliche, sure, duh, yeah, we want that. But if you're not getting a power bat at third, an Arenado or somebody like that, you got to have somebody that at least they'll give you, in my opinion, a 270. 270 average, can walk some, doesn't strike out a bunch. You need an on-base guy at that point, because if you don't have a power bat, you need somebody that at least gets on base, because now third base is one of those positions you look to have, ideally a decent average or a power, one of those two. Because usually third basemen are just built different. They're just bigger. That's a bigger, third and first are your guys, the sluggers type of deal. So I think they can. It's just, you got to have somebody that's, I didn't get a chance. Let me pull it. Joey Ortiz, as far as stat wise, I mean, I know he was doing really well with the Brewers there. I don't know if he cooled off towards the end of the year or not.
He did. He cooled off a lot of it towards.
Yeah, 239, 11 home runs, 60. I mean, yeah, that's not great. That's not outstanding by any means. It's just, yeah, I think you need, if you could get Joey Ortiz to play at a 260 clip and give you 18 home runs next year, that at least it's not bad. It's not wow, what do we do? So I think you can win like that. It's just, I mean, you got to have you got to have a good season out of Rhys, in my opinion, too. He's got to. I mean, it's not like a bad year last year, but you look for him to play better and hopefully stay healthy. That's always his thing too, is staying healthy too, because he's had his his concerns with the injury list as well, unfortunately. But
yeah. No, I mean it's a question of, do the Brewers go out and spend money? And I don't think they will. I got to be honest with you. I don't think they will. And I did see a whole argument about it on Facebook today because they were talking about how much the Brewers ownership group is worth versus how much the payroll is, and then how much the team made in a year. And I don't think that people understand economics by the end of it there. Like, you're not going to ask – like, Mark Ananasio is worth like $700 million. Like, that's what he's worth, Brewers owner. Like, he is not even close to the top of MLB owners with how much they're worth. And you're not going to throw your entire life savings and then some into a team and then expect it to just, you're not going to get the payout that what you put in. So I don't get it sometimes. Like, I don't understand economics to like the fullest either. But when I can look at it and say, I'm not going to expect the owner to throw all of his money in there and not pocket something in there, I don't know. So, I mean, Aaron, are we seeing any other like MLB free agency news? I saw Paul Goldschmidt finally out of the NL, so that's good for the Brewers. He's going to the Yankees there on a little contract. Outside of that, are you seeing anything that's happening? Any rumblings? I know Corbin Burns is still out there somewhere. Like, there's a lot of names still out there in the free agency room.
Yeah. I think. Wow, I didn't know Josh Naylor was traded there.
The Guardians are slowly, weirdly unloading because they traded Jimenez away too, and now they just traded away Josh Naylor. So I don't know what is going on with the Cleveland Guardians at this point, but they're kind of moving pieces.
Yeah, that's surprising. I mean, he's been a staple to that team for quite some time. I'm not saying it's going to take him out of it or anything, but it's like, wow, that's
the Jimenez move might take him out of it.
Yeah, that's true. I do like unfortunately, we don't have Kyle in the comments or anything, but I did like their pickup of like, I think Pablo Sandoval is a good pitcher. He's forever forgotten about because anybody on the Angels is irrelevant basically, but it's I like that one. As far as rumblings, I mean, I still hear that the Orioles are in talks with Burns, which is like, I'm shocked they're even competitive. I don't know if they'll end up signing him. That's a different, but they're one of the teams that at least have had, more than one talk with Burns. I mean, the Red Sox are to be rumored. Corbin Burns posted a picture at it's something Canadian that they only have in Canada. I forget what it's, some like a restaurant, or something like that. I think it's a fast food chain. Oh, it's Tim Hortons. I think it's maybe a grocery store or something.
Okay.
But he kind of like teased it on his I think it was on X or Instagram, and he's like the eyeball emoji or something. So he's definitely making it like, maybe he thought, I'm gonna rile up these other teams. Maybe his agent told him. I don't know. I think he's a Boris client, to be honest with you.
He's a Boris client.
So that's not surprising. It almost makes me hate all the Boris clients because he's just like Boris is hard to stomach. But it's I mean, that's a big one. That's a big chip that has yet to fall just because of like how good he's an ace on most teams. Pete Alonso did decline the qualifying offer from the Mets, which is, I mean, to be expected. That basically allowed him to go into free agency. I mean, there's some guys out there like you look at like Josh Bell, he's not bad. But like, I don't know, other than Corbin Burns, I'm trying to pull up. I mean, Bregman's still out there. That's a big name at least. Jackson Profar is out there.
All right.
Trying to pull, like, I'm looking position by position. Oh, Anthony Santander from the Orioles. That guy like slams home runs like it's nobody's business. He had like 44 last year. So I'm curious to where he'll go. Phillies are interested, or at least I've talked to him. A couple other teams, the Red Sox have I mean, if he went to the Yankees, I would probably forever hate the guy. But it's that guy is not really talked about whatsoever. I think he's like, I'm not saying he's Soto, but like, I mean, 40. He hit more home runs than Soto. Like it's something to be said for that at least. That's a power bat. It's gonna cost you. I mean, if the Brewers like slotted Reese to first base and DH, like Santander's an outfielder, so he's not gonna play anywhere but outfield. Really, right field. he's like a bulky. You know, I mean, he's not going to go get him like Churio or something like that. But he can play right field just fine. Like he's not a bad fielder. But he's a DH or a right fielder. That's all you can get with that guy. So that's a power bat that's definitely still out there. JD Martinez, if anybody wants his like declining, old services, there's that. Jack Flaherty. I'm not a big Jack Flaherty guy. I mean, Justin Verlander's a free agent, which is.
I got an interesting one. Patrick Wisdom.
Okay. Yeah.
From last year with the Cubs there. I don't know if he had a great year last year. Let's see here. 2024. He batted 171, so he was terrible. 8 home runs. But year before that, 23 home runs. Year before that, 25. So you'd be taking a shot. You'd be throwing a dart at a dartboard, and you don't even know where the dartboard's at. But that would be kind of what you're doing with Patrick Wisdom. But that's a Brewer move. That is a Brewer power move right there. Is just signing up somebody like that. And that would be like Craig Counsell's taking all of our guys. Well, let's take his guys right back at him.
And I totally agree. Like the dartboard analogy is perfect for that because like you don't. I mean, I think even Cody Bellinger is kind of a dartboard pick because he's not the Cody Bellinger a couple of years ago. Like I mean, at Yankee Stadium, I am scared that might play to his advantage big time. But I mean, you have what about like I never liked this guy. I don't know what it is, but Jock Peterson, I never was a fan. But
the problem is that you're almost like shortstop and third base is like the only 2 positions that you can look at. Because outside of that, I mean, outfield. If we had another outfielder, I don't know what we're gonna do because you have so many outfielders already. You'd have to trade one away. That's an option too, is trading away an outfield piece. But do you want to trade an outfield piece away? I mean, you're looking at
he can DH, but I don't think you want Reese playing first. I ideally you don't want Reese to play first base. He's not. He's a batter. Like he's like kind of Soto in the fact that like you look for his bat, you don't look for his glove. He's not a great.
Here's one that I'd be in. It doesn't add pop, but Jose Iglesias. Last season he batted 337 with the Mets. And his market value, I'm on Spot Track right now. I was going to look at his market value for next season. I believe it shows you market value for these guys. Now I lost him. I had him and then I lost him there. But right. I believe that you could get away with a guy like that where you bring him into play shortstop, but now you're playing it as, okay, we didn't add any more pop. We just added another position player to keep another position player out for now. So I don't think that does anything for you. I mean, I'm looking at the rest of those guys there. Enrique Hernandez, a little bit of pop, but he's more of a role play shortstop than he is anything else. Paul DeYoung, he's getting a little bit older. I mean, you don't got a lot of options. You really don't have a lot. Tim Anderson, I wish – If you could get Tim Anderson from when he was with the White Sox and torching it, yeah, I would be all in on it. But you don't know what you're going to get. I feel like if the Brewers get somebody, they're going to get one of the guys that we're talking about right now. Tim Anderson, hoping, right? Or who do we just talk about? Third baseman there. Patrick Wisdom, hoping, right? We're going to get one of those. Hoping that this guy ends up being something kind of guys. Like that's where I'm at right now with the Brewers. Like those are the moves that I expect the Brewers to make at this point in time is the guys where you're just kind of hoping that they will. I mean, Brandon Crawford retired. Otherwise I would have said they probably would have signed him up, right? Aletmus Diaz, maybe, right? There's options. There's options out there, but then you just add, are you adding pop? Are you adding enough pop? Like what are you adding? I think you need to just, if you're the Brewers, I don't know what you do, to be honest with you. You're not in the market for a big name. You're in the market for either we're going to trade away a lot of pieces and get a young piece, or we're going to trade away a lot of pieces and hope that somebody keeps the contract with them. And I don't think that anybody's going to do that. So where are the Brewers kind of stuck? They're kind of stuck at the point where I don't know. I don't know what the right move is going to be, but we'll wait and see with them there if they do decide to make a move here or if they decide to stay put and just hope that the young guys can produce enough that they can figure it out. You know, Pat Murphy, I try to yell every single year about management and everything like that, and that they're screwing us and they're screwing this up and screwing that up. But somehow, some way, every single year, they find a way to put together a good season. And knock on wood, this year is the same difference, right? So that's what we're hoping for. That's what we're hoping for there. So we're going to get to a little ad break here. We're going to get to a commercial break. We'll come back. We'll preview the Packers-Saints game coming up tomorrow night here. And then we will also talk about some of the NFL games that we did see today, because I know Aaron is dying to talk about his Eagles. So we'll get into them when we come back here on the show. So we'll see you on the other side of the break.
This show is brought to you by these fantastic sponsors. Marshfield Motor Speedway, located 3 miles outside of Marshfield on County Road H. Tons of family fun for all ages. Great food, great drinks, great racing. I cannot think of a better way to spend a summer day or night than down at the track. Next is Sports Scene in Marshfield, Wisconsin, located at the Marshfield Mall. Get down there and see Al. He has everything you need, from sports cards, memorabilia, jerseys, model stock cars. He's got it all. Sports Scene in Marshfield. And then we have Peggy Sue Beslick, Century 21. Do you want to find your dream home, or maybe looking to sell your current property? Let Peggy Sue Beslick at Century 21 help you with all of your housing or property needs.
All right, great stuff there. Make sure if you need to buy or sell a house that you check out Century 21 there. They will get you anything you want, right? Anything you want out there. They'll find your dream home there. So let's get into a little bit of Packers Saints talk here, because the Packers, we didn't clinch a playoff berth, right? There's a lot of stipulations behind it. We needed, the Falcons to lose to the Giants. Nobody ever saw that going to happen. So it was kind of just win your game tomorrow and just keep playing, keep winning, and you'll find your way in, right? So Packers, Saints, Aaron, let's look over that injury report a little bit here, because the Saints they're kind of decimated right now. They're kind of out of just about everybody. So Derek Carr will be out for this game here. Elvin Kamara out for this game. Bub Means out for this game. We see Valdez-Scantling is questionable for this game. Chris Olave out for this game. So you got your best pass catcher is out. Your top running back is out. Your quarterback is out. The Packers are like, yay, right? Great. They're missing everybody. Well, let's look over the Packers here. Jair Alexander, he's questionable. Corey Ballantyne, questionable. Javian Bullard is out. Quay Walker's out for this one. Luke Musgrave, questionable for this one. Evan Williams, also questionable for this one. His injury kind of just popped up, his quadricep there late in the week. He was good all the way up until Saturday when he was limited at practice there. So we'll see what kind of happens with Evan Williams. We'll see what it looks like tomorrow there. But Packers injury report getting smaller, which we're glad to see. Saints, they are missing the key pieces, right? The quarterback, the running back, and your best wide receiver in this one. So Saints, Packers should be still hopefully a good one there. Aaron, I'm looking at this game, and I'm like, what do the Packers got to do? What do they got to do, right? This isn't like it's a great Saints team at this point, but what do the Packers got to do to just set the tone, take care of their business, and leave with a win there at Lambeau? First and foremost, own that line of scrimmage, right? Both sides of the ball. Own the trenches. We talk about it every single game. The Packers got to own the trenches. Offensively, Carl Granderson and Chase Young, both of them are averaging over 50 pressures. Both of them have over 50 pressures this season. That's impressive stats. So they have two good defensive linemen there. So it's going to be a lot on the Packers to keep Jordan Love out of distress back there. Keep them out of pressure in this one. Looking at them, they put pressure. The Saints find a way to put pressure on guys. That is one of their key things. They actually have one of the best red zone defenses in the NFL. They are 8th in red zone touchdown percentage. That's a crazy stat because they're 30th in yards allowed. So they're terrible. They let teams move the ball down the field on them. It's when they get in the red zone that they kind of shut it down there. So they're actually 13th in points allowed. You're like, okay, you're going to be able to move the ball, but once you get in the red zone, you got to be able to convert that, right? And that's what I'm watching in this one here. The Packers have got to be good in the red zone. It's something we've talked about this year. The Packers have kind of struggled red zone offense. This is a game where you kind of got to set that tone because the Saints have played well in that red zone this season here. On the flip side of it, for the Packers, put pressure on Spencer Rattler, right? You got to get him. He's a young quarterback. Put him into some distress, make him make mistakes, get some turnovers, help my fantasy team out, right? Playing Kyle right now in fantasy, I need the Packers defense to come away with some picks in this next game here. So put some pressure on him, get him out of rhythm, right? Don't let Spencer Rattler settle into this game. I don't think that he's a terrible quarterback. Like if you give him enough time back there in the pocket, you give him enough time to make a throw, he's going to make a throw, right? No Chris Olave, don't give him the time. Take care of your business. The front four looked good against Seattle. They were putting pressure on Geno Smith all night long. And then backup quarterback there for a while. Same thing in this one. Put pressure on Spencer Rattler. Win your one-on-ones. That's something we're watching. The biggest thing that, you watch in any game is can a team win their one-on-ones, right? Looking at defensive line, can you put pressure on a quarterback without having to bring the linebackers, without having to bring a safety or something like that? That's something that defines what a good defense is. And that's something that the Packers have kind of been, I wouldn't say lapsing at this season, but they haven't proven yet, right? You got to prove that you can win your one-on-ones, because you can't always bring the linebacker help. You can't always bring that help from the secondary there on a blitz coming from the outside. Sometimes you got to win with what you got up front there, right? And that's the front four for the Packers. This is another game where they got to win their one-on-ones and take care of the business. The Saints are giving up 5 yards per carry. So Josh Jacobs, this is where my fantasy team's going to get killed, because Kyle's got Josh Jacobs going into this game here. Not liking that, because Josh Jacobs is going to feast in this game. 5 yards per carry running backs are getting against this Saints team so far. Yeah, I mean, feed the man, right? Feed the man going into this one. The Saints, I'm going to, honestly, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Saints are going to go to a lot of screens, a lot of, underneath routes, something to keep the pressure off of Spencer Rattler, right? They're not going to do anything crazy, I don't think. They're going to try to keep it simple, try to keep it, try to keep Spencer Rattler confident in there by limiting what he's got to do. So simple things, the screen pass, little underneath routes, just the little things in this one. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. The Saints maybe looking in this one. And like I just mentioned, one of my big keys, let Jacobs, let Tucker Kraft, because he's on my fantasy team, let your playmakers make your plays in this one here. You watch that game against the 49ers, the Dolphins, that's what they did. They went to Kraft, they went to Jacobs, they went to Jaden Reed, and they said, go win us this game, right? Don't make Jordan Love doesn't need to be throwing the ball all over the place in this one here. Make the easy throws, let your playmakers do their work in this one, break some tackles, do their thing. You look at the Saints, barring weather, right? Because we're in Lambeau, they're talking, it's going to be cold. I did see that Wisconsin's got a little winter weather advisory tomorrow, so we'll see how the weather looks there. Barring weather, the Saints have given up 242 yards through the air per game on the season. Not a great stat. Their secondary's beat up. Take advantage of that if you're Green Bay. That's what I'm talking about. Kraft, Reed, Wicks, whoever it is, take advantage of that. Hit some big throws. That's where we're looking. PFF grades for the Saints. Run defense, they're graded at the 31st worst team in the NFL. Pass rush, they're 18th. Coverage, 22nd. Total defense, they're 30th. So a struggling defense all the way around. That's not to say that front can't get pressure, because Chase Young's still in there. Carl Granderson, they have a couple other good names up there. Cam Jordan's still up front there. They can do little things for you, right? He's a vet. He's been there, done that guy. He's going to be able to get after you a little bit. Pass blocking, they're 31st, and run blocking, they're 11th. So you can get after Spencer Rattler in this game, right? And that's what I said. You got to get after him with the front four. So, Aaron, I mean, looking at the Saints team, is there anything, if you're the Saints, right, what do you have to do to take advantage and try to beat this Green Bay Packer team?
I think one of the things you had just mentioned there, like Carl Granderson and Chase Young, they can get after the quarterback. So if you're the Saints, I mean, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback, Tom Brady, Mahomes, whatever. If you can get pass rush on any of them, you're going to disrupt, Green Bay's game plan. Now, you could almost argue, well, if you not, I wouldn't say the passing game would be completely neutralized, but let's say it's not as effective. The Packers can flip and say, hey, we have Josh Jacobs back there. So it's not like, if, let's say they limit Jordan Love to 180 yards or something, they pick him off once and, whatever it might be. You can still get beat on the ground. And I don't anticipate the Saints having like that good of a, defensive effort there. I mean, looking at, a couple other things, like, I mean, just Jordan Love's been playing, he has a passer rating of 100 or better in 5 straight games. So, but the Saints are on average giving up a passer rating of 83. So, I mean, there's something, all those stats you had mentioned and some of the stats I just mentioned, like all that can play a role. It's just, I think as cliche as this is going to be, is just playing your game. If you're the Packers, like, don't underestimate the Saints, but don't think like, okay, let's complicate this for ourselves. Like, no, just go out there, pretend like you're playing for the division title, like just execute. Like if you have the right mindset going into this game, as far as the Packers, like, it shouldn't be really an issue, especially at Lambeau. Like you're taking a team that plays in a dome and putting them in Lambeau in December. So that, to me, I will always say that has an effect on the visiting team on a team that doesn't play in these elements, that type of thing. Like you had mentioned, like no Taysom Hill the rest of the year, no Derek Carr. Like this team is a shell of itself, and they weren't even that good at full strength. So you just have to take advantage of their weaknesses and not what I like to see a team do. On the flip side, like if you're the Packers, you keep the hammer down. Like you don't allow a team like this to stay around. Now, if you're the Saints and for whatever reason you do stay around, I mean, obviously just holding the ball, like not turning the ball over, ideally, because Rattler can do that. He's not going to give you 5 touchdowns in this game. That's the thing. Like he's going to game manage and just hopefully not turn the ball over. So, to your question, if you're the Saints, hopefully the run game gets going. Hopefully you can, manage long drives because it's going to be a challenge to kind of stop the receiving core that the Packers have with, all 5 weapons basically. I mean, really. And it's for the Saints. You just got to hope you get pass rush, and you got to hope you don't get gashed by Josh Jacobs. That's really it. Starts and ends there because if you can't do those things, you're not going to win a shootout with Rattler, unfortunately for them. So.
No, and I'm looking across. It's like, what if Taysom Hill was there, right? Maybe they could do a little bit of some crazy stuff with him. He's on the IR. He's out for this one. You look across the board, it's like they are beat up. They are beat up at this point. And I mean, I don't want to say that it's good for the Packers because I'd want to play them at full strength so you can see what you're made of, right? You don't want kind of a walkthrough game there. But, I mean, like you said, you still have to keep guys in check. Kendre Miller, you got to keep him check in the run game there. You still have to keep guys in check in this one. I didn't realize that Alvin Kamara led the Saints in rushing and receiving yards. Yeah, that tells you kind of where they're at this point here. I mean, Chris Olave has only played in 8 games, so that doesn't help him out at all. He's only played 8 games on the season, but this Saints team is beat up. This is a game where the Packers just, like you said, you got to put the foot down and you just have to end it. Like this, I said it on, I believe it was on Friday there. I said, if they didn't cover the spread, I'd be upset. This is a game where you got to cover the spread. This is a game where you have to walk in there like it's in your building. It's in Lambeau. You have to have the biggest machismos on the field there. Just walk out there and say, we own this place. We run you, and just take care of your business and have it over with by halftime. Like that's this kind of game. That's where you want to be in this kind of game, is set the tone. We're talking about the offensive line. They've been nothing but impressive this year. Own the trenches. Same with the defensive line in this one. Own the line of scrimmage in this one here. Don't let that run game get going, because if the run game gets going somehow for the Saints, that is going to make Spencer Rattler's job that much easier. Because if the run game can get going, everything's going to open up for him. You got to keep it tight-knit in this one. Well, I want to see another good game out of Edgerrin Cooper in this one in the run game. Shut that thing down, maybe get a few sacks there. Lucas Van Ness, keep doing what you're doing. Rashawn Gary, the defensive line. Kenny Clark, just the defense. That's what I'm watching in this one. You're in a game now. You had a really good game against the Seahawks. And the Seahawks got their own injuries too, but you played a great game against the Seahawks. You had a dominant effort. Can we see it again? Right? 2 weeks in a row against a team that you should dominate. Don't let this team think that for 1 second that, hey, we got a shot against you guys. Take care of your business, right? That's what we're talking about. Take care of business, covering the spread, winning this football game easy. That's all we want to see. So Packers Saints coming up. That's going to be tomorrow night there, a little Monday night football. Then we finally get out of this primetime crap. The Packers have played 4 straight primetime games. That is too many. That is too many on the season there. I mean, you're talking about what? Ever since the Dolphins game, that was primetime, Lions primetime, Seahawks and Saints, all primetime games. Now you finally get back to some regular action against the Vikings, and we don't even know. The Bears game, that's a flex game. So it could flex to whatever, whenever that they want to put it. If it means something, if it doesn't mean anything, we'll wait and see. So the Packers at this point, they got to win their games, right? You have to beat Minnesota, because with the Commanders still winning games, the Commanders currently, I believe, what are they, 9-5? 9-5 on the season, I believe the Commanders are, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe, I don't think they got did they get to 10 today? They might have gotten to 10 today.
Did they get to 10 today? They got 10. So they're 10-5.
Yeah.
Packers are 10-4. You're talking about in this race right now for the playoffs, in this race, if you win 2 games, the Packers are in. They're in with 12 wins. I don't think that they're not in with 12 wins. But you're in the 6th spot right now. If you don't beat Minnesota and Minnesota beats Detroit, you're going to be in that 6th spot. So you're hovering in that 6th spot. If you do, however, lose again, and the Commanders, who have a favorable last 2 games, I believe they play the Falcons next and they play the Cowboys after that. So the Commanders have favorable games in the last 2 matchups. If the Packers slip up, they could drop all the way to 7, and we could be going to Philly, who I believe Philly will probably not get the 1 seed now since they lost today to the Commanders. They'll probably drop out of that. We'll see either the Vikings or the Lions get the 1 seed. You could end up going to Philly round 1 versus going to, I don't want to go to the Rams, I can tell you that much, but going to the Buccaneers or the Rams round 1, right? And I get you want to get your toughest your toughest test out of the way right off the bat, like that'd be cool. But at the same time, I don't want to go to Philadelphia in round 1. I can tell you that much. Unless if they're telling me Jalen Hurts is going to miss like 4 weeks, I don't want to go to round 1 against Philly, right? So the Packers, they control their own destiny. They're basically, if they win against the Saints, mathematically they're probably in, right? 11 wins. The next closest teams behind them would be the Seattle Seahawks, 8-7. You have the Falcons at 8-7. You have the tiebreaker against Seattle, so you're mathematically most likely in. But at the same time, do you want to drop to a 7 and have to go to Philly? No, not at all. Not at all. Unless okay, so it could shake up. Philly needs the Vikings to beat the Lions, the Packers to beat the Vikings, then Philly can move back up into that top spot. So that would help out Philly, but I don't want to help out Philly, and I don't want to go to Philly for round 1 of the playoffs. I can tell you that much. I mean, Aaron, what do you think? Vikings, Lions. I believe is that next week?
Got to be.
No, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Okay.
Packers have the Vikings next, and then so final game of the season will be Vikings, Lions. If the Vikings lose to the Packers, it doesn't mean much. Yeah. If the Vikings beat the Packers, that game's for the division. If the Lions, barring that they don't lose, but who do the Lions play? 49ers. Lions should win the game against the 49ers. Yeah. I would hope. So you'll be talking about week 18 is going to be for the division if the Vikings win. And then the Packers would be sitting there with 5 losses. And if the Commanders don't slip up, how does the tie? I don't know what the tiebreaker. I think it would come down to common opponents. I think it would come down to common opponents that they had there. And there's a lot of tiebreaker rules, but I think it would come down to common opponents. And I don't know. The Commanders did beat the Eagles. So there's your common opponent, but they did lose to the Eagles. So I don't know how they weigh that one.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, it's like you split with it. Like it's a.
How does it work? How does it flip flop? I don't know how it flip flops there, but I mean, I think I'll look it up. What do you think of the NFC playoff picture at this very moment, Eric?
Well, I know, like for me personally today, like pretty much I expected the Lions to beat up on. The Bears are atrocious, man. They are god awful. That team is right now, and they will be for the rest of the year, I think. So, as far as let's pull that out. Let's go NFL playoff picture, NFC. Let's see. Here we go. There's AFC. Switch it to the NFC. There we go. So yeah, I mean, so much is up for grabs, right? Like you got the Rams sitting there 9-6, Buccaneers 8-6. I mean, hopefully they beat Dallas tonight. As far I don't know. This Detroit, I'm not gonna say they don't deserve it, but like this Eagles game really kind of threw a wrench in the 1 seed, in my opinion, because I don't anticipate okay, so you're saying next week Vikings Packers, right? Or Vikings Lions?
Vikings Packers next week. Vikings Lions will be week 18.
Right. So the like you said, if the Vikings lose this next upcoming game, it's pretty much like there's no path that they take the Lions out of the division, basically, like at that point. So I don't know. there's a lot of like these teams that are in the middle. I mean, how do you feel about it? Do you think these teams in the middle, like the Bucks, I could see them winning a game or two. I'm not gonna shoe in the Eagles or shoe in the Lions or anybody like that, but I don't know. Like Minnesota shocked me today. I'll give them that. They went up to Seattle, close game. I mean, Seattle had their chances late, and I thought that they should have found a way, but that's kind of Geno Smith for you. It's almost like granted, look at who Sam Darnold has to throw to again. I mean, you got DK Metcalf, but like Tyler Lockett isn't Addison by any means. So Vikings are sneakily impressive. I just don't anticipate them doing anything in the playoffs. That's where I'm at. I still don't think they can get it done in the playoffs. The playoff picture, I mean, it's kind of the Lions 1 seed to lose. After that, it's just going to be some shakeup, really. If the Eagles can't win out, if the Packers do win out, and the Vikings go 1-1, like you can see a lot of this change quickly. It's just a matter of, I don't know if the 1 seed's really up for grabs anymore. I don't think it is, personally.
Yeah. No, I would agree. There. I do got the rules up here, though. I got the rules for the tiebreaker. So if it's tied between two teams, first is head-to-head. Second is best won-loss tied percentage. Third, that's in games played within the division. So they look at division first. Then they go to best win-loss tie percentage in common games. Then fourth is best won-loss tied percentage in games played within the conference. Then is strength of victory of all games. Sixth is strength of schedule in all games. Seventh is best combined ranking among conference teams in points scored and points allowed. Eighth is best combined rankings. Ninth is best net points in common games. 10th is best net points in all games. 11th is best net touchdowns in all games. And then if it gets to it, which I don't think it ever will, if you get past like fourth in this, I'd be surprised. But if you get to 12th, they do a coin toss.
Wow.
Heads or tails, who makes the playoffs and who goes home sad? Like that's where we end it. That's where we ended on it.
I mean, shoot, if it gets to that point, that'll be interesting. I don't, like you said, I don't see it getting to that point, but I kind of want to see it get to that point.
Yeah, I would. I'd be like, it'd be like the LeBron decision, but this would be like an ESPN special. Who makes the playoffs, Packers or Vikings? And it's just one guy in the middle. All right, here's the coin. Heads is this side, tails is this side. Vikings, you got the call. What do you got? Bam. I mean, that would be a terrible way not to make the playoffs. You lost a coin toss, which was 50-50.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's got to be 2 out of 3.
It's almost like the draft lottery, like with the NBA. It's like I never really I don't know how you feel about that, but it's like if the Cavaliers are the worst team, right? Yep. And they have more balls in the machine, and then they go to pick it, and like the Pistons were the 6th worst team. Oh, the Pistons get the number 1 overall. Like, why is it up for chance? You know what I mean? Like, of all things, you're the worst team. You should be awarded the number 1 overall. Like, that should not be a thing that's up for chance, up for grabs, up for debate.
That's the NBA. That's the NBA.
That is ridiculous.
It's just the tip of the iceberg of what's wrong with professional basketball. Like, there's a lot wrong with the NBA, but that is like
their ratings are like way down. I've heard. Like,
yeah, and everybody's trying to figure out how to fix it. Everybody's trying to figure out how to fix it.
It's the flashy courts, man. It hurts people's eyes. They just turn it off. I don't know what it is. I don't like those courts. I really don't. I really
and I saw tonight a video, and it was of the Celtics. And I always give praise to Celtics, ball movement, everything like that. But I watched one tonight. It was I believe it was, what's his name, Derek White, and he shot 3 straight threes on the. He shot a 3, bricked it. They got the offensive rebound, kicked it around a little bit, got back to him, shot it again, bricked it, got it back again, offensive rebound. They kept going around, got it to him in the corner, shot it, bricked it, and then finally the Bulls got the rebound. And I was like, this is what's wrong with the NBA in a nutshell right here is 3, 3, 3. I mean, I can't remember the last time I looked at a book, like a score book of the NBA or the box score, looking at it after, and it's like, this team only shot like 23s. No, like you look at it now, it's like 30, 40, 50. Like, how many threes can we put up in a game? There was one the other night, the Bucks and the Thunder in that NBA Cup game. And the Thunder, I was going to look real fast here. They shot 32 threes and they made 5 of them.
Wow.
You want to turn people off of a game, you shoot 5 for 32 from downtown. I mean, that will turn you off of a game that fast. 29 for 86 from the field in the game. That's like watching soccer, right? That's like watching soccer. You watch the time runs backwards, first off. The time's running backwards. And then after that, well, now technically it's running forwards if you really think about it, but it's running forwards. And then you watch it for like 90 minutes, and all you see is the ball go back and forth, one goal, and then they go back and forth for another 30 minutes, and then somebody else scores, and then they go back and forth for another 30. It's like the most like barn burner stuff, and you have to really like soccer to watch it. But that's what we're watching right now in the NBA. It's like, come down, shoot a three, bam, okay, nothing there. Rebound, come down, shoot a three, bam, nothing there. Okay, go back. Okay, it's back and forth, like just nonsense. And I watch it, and that's why I like the college game. It feels like, and I know the college game can get out of hand at times too, but it feels like it's more basketball, right? And I've actually gave props to the women's game. I've gave props to the women's game. I know a lot of people, they're like, it's boring, right? And I'm like, well, when I watch it, it looks like basketball, right? The layup is still a thing. Like the post is still a thing. You still see post moves. You still see something that looks like offense. Like it's yes, the women's game can get boring, but it looks like basketball, and that's might be my opinion on it, or most people might disagree with me, but I would rather watch basketball than watch a bunch of guys go out there and just running up and down a floor and just chucking it up there, right? The All-Star game for the NBA is atrocious, right? That is just disgusting to watch because you have guys who don't even cross half court. I wouldn't, if I was a basketball, like, I'm not as good as any of these guys, but if I played in the NBA and they invited me to the All-Star game, I wouldn't even want to include my name on that list. I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to go because that is just terrible. Like you're going out there and you're making a fool out of the game at that point. So you want to get eyeballs? Fix that. Fix the problem. Why do you have to pay guys to give a crap? Like we have to do this NBA Cup and we have to give them incentives just to try. Like that's you want to. There's your problem. There's your problem. You don't think that people like sit at home and they're like scrolling through social media and they're like, wow, they put this in-season tournament in, and if you win it, you win money, and that's supposed to entice players to want to try. And they put that basically word for word in there, and you're like, why do I give a crap? They don't give a crap.
Yeah.
Like why?
Exactly that.
Why would I care? Why would I care? Like at least college, those guys are playing for something, right? They're playing to get to the league. So they're still playing hard in college. You get in the NBA and it's like you got LeBron James over here dogging and crying on the bench. And you got, I mean, there's still, I will say, you know, you watch like the Bucks, Andre Jackson Jr. for the Bucks. He's not much of an offensive threat, but heck, he gives you effort on the defensive end. He's got a boatload of blocks. He plays good defense. Like he still gives you everything he's got. And you got some guys in the NBA who still give you everything they got. But when you watch your stars and they look like they don't care, or they don't care if they miss a game, right? There's no drive to play every game. There's no drive to be out there every night. They're like, oh, well, you know, I got a stinger on my big toe. I ran into my coffee table. So I'm going to have to miss tonight. Right? And then you like think about it and you think back, you watch like the Dream Team, right? Or you watch, what the heck? I'm trying to think of the Michael Jordan. The Last Dance. You watch the Last Dance and you get a perspective of what basketball was like back then. And you got Michael Jordan, if it was true or not, getting poisoned by the opposing team with a pizza. And he goes out there and I mean, you watch the clips from that game and you're watching it and you're like, this guy looks like he could like pass out any time now. And he still goes out there and gives you a better performance than half these guys can. And I mean, you wouldn't see that today. You wouldn't see a single one of these guys put their body or anything on the line. Maybe like a Giannis, because I feel like Giannis is an old basketball player. He's built different, right? He's one of those guys where he's going to hurt himself before he comes out of a game. Kevin Durant, no, wouldn't see it. Klay Thompson would. I'd give Klay Thompson. He tear his ACL that time, and he still shot the free throws before leaving. Like that dude, when he did that, gained my respect, right? I was like, this dude will do it all for anybody. But some of these guys, LeBron, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, some of your bigger name stars, Joel Embiid. I mean, I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, you don't care. You don't give a crap. Why do I give a crap about you if you don't give a crap about us, right? We're the guys paying for you to go doing what you do, right? And you get paid millions of dollars to go do it. I can't just, and that's what irritates me the most. And, it's a broken record. But I can't just say, hey, my toe hurts today, so I'm not going to go to work, right? Can't. I honestly think you want to make these guys give a crap in the NBA. You want to make it fun. You want to make it enticing. Pay them to show up. Pay them to play, right? You don't play, you don't get paid. It's simple. It's a real simple thing. If you have a legit medical reason why you can't play, okay, there's stipulations, right? Legit. I need legit. But if you're telling me because you got a little stinger on your toe that you can't go out there and give me some minutes here, dude, come on.
Yeah, and even like guys that'll strap it up I mean, I listened to Arian Foster was on Joe Rogan a long time ago, and granted it was a contract year, but the guy played through a broken collarbone. Like it's just like and not only that, like you're playing a game where I mean you're getting the smithereens beat out of you every play. Like you're playing running back in the NFL. I mean that is you have to be one tough SOB to even like do that, and then you're playing. Like, he's basically getting told by his agent, getting told by other players. I mean, hey, if you miss half this year with a broken collarbone, say goodbye to yeah, for him it was the money, sure, but it was his opportunity to get paid, and he played through it. Like you said, these NBA like prima donna. I mean, I got to be honest with you, Trade. Like when Kobe was playing, I it's not like I was a Laker fan, but Kobe was. Like the mindset,
you were a Kobe fan.
I was like the biggest Kobe fan, and it's like almost like when he got out of the league to me, it just kind of went like okay, like that guy would do anything to win. He taped he has a broken finger. Who cares? Pop it back in. Oh, his shoulders dislocate. Pop it back in. Like these guys now to me are so like just over the top dramatic, and like you said, like. I'm not saying that we have to completely, associate ourselves with them, but like you said, I mean, like, what if, hey, I pulled something on my back, but it's not that bad. Guess what? Like, even if it is kind of bad, you're probably like, well, I'm going to work. Like, I'm not taking an off day. And like these guys, like, I'm not saying playing basketball is easy and you're contouring your body and moving different ways, but some of these guys, it's like, come on, like how many games has Kawhi Leonard missed for like. Not like literally, I'm just gonna take a couple weeks off. Like, dude, you play 40 minutes a night. Like, you're not playing 3 hours a night. Like, I just it gets to be, I don't know, and like it's so like kind of stupid for me to complain about this, but those bright like 5 different color courts and stuff. I'm just like, why like are we making this Boise State? Like, I don't know what the point of this is. I get it, like it's different, but I don't know if it's a good different. Like, I like. One thing I do like about Boston is like that floor looks like awesome, like the TD Garden, like it's just nostalgia. Like the Knicks Stadium, like just looks like like there's marquee, like Golden State, like it just looks nice. And like now you're painting it 50 different. I don't know. It's just the NBA is taking a weird route. I don't know what exactly they're just kind of like losing themselves. I think at this point, and they're letting the players run the asylum like completely.
Yeah. Like, no, and Adam Silver's not doing anything to fix it. That's the thing. Like, everybody was like, this golden bat rule. I know we talked about it. We're like, I don't know if I like it and everything like that. And I think Rob Manfred's this and that. You know what? Rob Manfred's trying. He's trying. It might be stupid. He might throw out the stupidest ideas in the world. But guess what? He's trying to put more eyeballs on it. He's trying to get the public's opinion on it before he does it. And he's trying to say, hey, I'm going to try and fix the game. I'm going to try to get more eyeballs on this. And maybe that would have, maybe it wouldn't have, maybe it would have ticked off the purist, right? But it still was trying. And same with Roger Goodell, right? We might not agree with the kickoff rule. I think it's stupid. I think the onside kick rule is stupid. They have announced to everybody. But guess what? He's trying. Now, is it for player safety? Is it for more excitement? A little bit of both, probably. On the kickoff rule, you want to see more returns, and you also want to see guys not get completely, lit up coming down the field at 100 miles per hour. So you're trying to improve both areas, I guess, in that. But Roger Goodell's trying. He's trying to take it international. He's trying to do all these little things. What is Adam Silver doing? He made a tournament in season that you incentivize players for doing, right? You incentivize the players. What's that doing for the fan, right? the fans looking at it as a normal game. I was excited to watch the Bucks play in the NBA Cup championship, but not like I would be excited to see them play in the NBA Finals, or I would be excited to see the Badgers get into the NCAA tournament and see one of those games, right? It's not like it drew that mark for me. So what is he doing to actually improve this, the crap show, right? The 5 for 32 from downtown, the Bucks shooting 17 for 40. What are you doing for that? And I don't know if there is a fix for that. I don't probably think there is, but I don't know how you fix it, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what Adam Silver and the NBA draws up there, because viewership is down, and I think it's only going to worse. And part of it too, it's a conversation we're not going to talk about because we don't want to get into the side of it here. But you politicized it too. You politicize the league. You let politics get into your sport, and when politics get involved, you sometimes will irritate a certain fan base. And good or bad, right? I'm not saying that anything that the NBA did was good or bad, because I don't want to get into that side of it. That's not what we want to do here. We don't want to get into that side of it. But once you enter that pathway, you have certain fans who are going to go away because they don't agree with you. Same with the NFL, same with MLB. If you go one way, you go another. It just so happens that the NBA was the one that they kind of took out the most with that. And it sucks, right? But that's the way you let it go. That's the way you let it go. And I'm not going to say, like I said, I'm not going to say one way or another what they did was good or bad. But once you involved any kind of outside noise into a game, it irritates people and it takes eyeballs away. So that's kind of what the NBA kind of tossed themselves into too. So Aaron, we're at the 2-hour mark. That's, about all we got for today. A lot of good games over the weekend, a lot of college football games that I guess could have probably been a lot better if the fans got what they wanted and they got Alabama and Ole Miss in there. Maybe it could have been better, but we're not going to get into that because we really don't care. At the end of the day, they put the 12 teams that they thought were the best in there, and that's what we got to live with. And now, hopefully, into the second round here, we're going to see a lot better matchups going into that one. So I believe those games start up 2 weeks from now into the start of the new year will be the next round of the college football playoff, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, January 1st. January 1st. They will. It's weird again. They have one game on New Year's Eve, which will be the Boise State and Penn State game. And then on January 1st, then they will have the full slate of games. So the 12 o'clock, the 4 o'clock, and the 7:45. So kind of the same format as they rolled in round one. They're going to roll with again in round two there. They'll separate them day by day. And then in the third round, they're going to separate that one day to the next. So, I get it. I don't know if I would have almost thrown it. What is the first? Is that a Sunday? No, it's middle of the week.
Yeah, Wednesday, just like Christmas. Yeah, week from.
So I guess there's no NFL or anything happening. I was thinking that you could almost try to avoid the NFL a little bit, but there should be no NFL happening on New Year's Eve or day there. I know Christmas week there's going to be a Christmas Eve game, a Christmas Day game, I believe a Thursday night game. They skip Friday, then there's Saturday and Sunday. So
that's another thing there though, because when I don't know, I'm not that much older. I'm only a couple years older than you, but growing up, I remember NBA on Christmas, right? That was staple. NBA on Christmas, NBA.
Yep.
And now it's the NFL has moved its way onto Christmas. It's good luck competing with that. Good, ratings, eyeballs, attention, hype, anything. The NFL is just a Goliath rolling, it's a snowball rolling downhill, and it's a massive entity. It's just
you can't compete with it. You can't. The only thing that you can do is, if you were the NBA, the only thing you can almost do is, how do you move the season, right?
I was going to say, what if you did a morning, like a 9 a.m. Christmas? I don't know if you can even do that though, because Christmas morning, that's.
I don't know. You won't get many eyeballs on that. The only thing, I was thinking, I think it was on Dan Patrick was talking about one day, and I think one of the Danettes said about moving the season. And they said, move it more towards baseball, right? Because NFL's done, college football playoffs done, March Madness, if you get further enough away from it, that's done. So you're done with college basketball. You're kind of in the dog days of summer, right? But then Dan said, and rings true, who wants to go down to an NBA arena and sit inside when you can go and sit at an MLB ballpark and sit outside and enjoy your time? That's a good point on that one. Who's going to sit down on their couch and watch an NBA game when you could sit outside and listen to an MLB game while messing around outside? So you're going to run into those. It's one of those things where I see the point. I see where you would move it to try and avoid, because like you said, how do you take eyeballs away from the NFL? How do you take eyeballs away from college football play, especially the playoff now? How do you take your eyes away from that? College basketball. It's just, this time of year is tough, right? There's so much sports happening. And then you get in the summer and there's like nothing. But it's also a hard time to compete in if you are major sports. The MLB, they survive because it's such a long season that they can survive it. They still get fans out there, because most stadiums, you can open up the roof. You can have, your fans can enjoy the tailgating experience and everything like that. I have never heard of anybody tailgating for an NBA game. So I just don't see it. I don't see it working either. So I don't know. Well, I mean, yeah, we'll see what the NBA does. Maybe they try other ways to try and improve it. I know they're going to tinker with the All-Star game. I know they're tinkering with other things. We'll see maybe if it pays off for them in the end there. So, Aaron, anything else we got to wrap us up here?
Kind of somber news though, the Ricky Henderson death. I mean, that's Hall of Famer, hell of a play. Like, he was the real deal. Like, I mean, stolen base leader. I believe. I think by a long. I think he finished with the most. I know he had the most in one season. I'm almost positive about that. Obviously before our time, like when he played, but yeah. That's an unfortunate one. I mean, it's a legendary baseball player. Like, not just, I mean, you're talking 10-time All-Star, an MVP, 2 World Series, 3-time Silver Slugger, an ALCS MVP. Yeah, just like one of those marquee guys. Like, finished his career with 1,406 stolen bases. So I don't know. I should have done a little more research on that, but yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate. I mean, he'll be remembered forever. Like, he is baseball royalty. That guy is. I mean, they called the Oakland Coliseum Ricky Henderson Field for a reason. So
I did see, I believe it was Harold Reynolds was talking about him in that tribute they did to him. And he said the year that he won the stolen base crown on the year, because Ricky was out. He went out early in the season, and it was him and another guy, and that guy went 0 for 5 in the day, so Harold ended up winning it. And Ricky called him. He called him on the phone, and he said, Henderson here, because he never spoke apparently. He always spoke in third person. So he said, Henderson here. And he's like, hey, what's up, Ricky? And he goes, yeah, I just want to congratulate it on you. But he said, Ricky would have, what'd he say? Henderson would have had like 30 or 4 at the All-Star break or something like that. And it was just like, that was Ricky Henderson. He was a great all-around guy and just a great baseball player. And it sucks. I mean, imagine this year, Pete Rose and Ricky Henderson. And I mean, just this year. Yeah, just this year. So, and I mean, you got Bill Walton for NBA, and I mean, college basketball guy, and he was a great guy too. So I mean, just a craziness right there. I didn't believe it when I first read it. I was like, are you serious? Like, I believe it was my wife's dad texted me, and he sent me the screenshot of the page, and I was like, no, this has got to be a joke or something right now. Like, he was just there at the Oakland A's Coliseum when they were closing that down, and everything seemed fine. It was just it's life. It's life, and it sucks. It really does. So
yeah, didn't want to end it like that, but it's one of those people you gotta at least bring up, because I mean, that's like Willie Mays, Ricky Henderson. Like, these are guys, like you said, Pete Rose. Like, these are these are guys that paved the way almost, like, just to continue to grow the game. Like, he was, I mean, talk to any Oakland A's fan or anybody that watched baseball during that time period, they'll talk about Ricky Henderson. Like, it's a shame.
Yeah, no, I agree there. So prayers to the family, and everything like that. Hopefully they get by, right? Hopefully they get by, and it'll get easier and everything like that for them there. So with that, I mean, that's about all we got for today. Bucks, they're going to be in action coming up on the 23rd, taking on the Bulls there. Packers in action tomorrow night there against the Saints. They got to cover the spread. Otherwise, I'm coming back with a handlebar mustache, coming back there on I don't know what we're going to do this week. I don't want to take the whole week off. I don't want to take the whole week off at all, but we'll see what day we can come back. Christmas Eve, or if it's going to be on Christmas Day at night. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to come back sometime this week, because I can't wait. I cannot wait all the way until Friday to talk about the Packers. So we got to get into that Packer talk, whether it's on Christmas Day night or what we got to do, we're going to talk about the Packers coming up this week here. So we'll be back. We'll be back probably, I'm going to say Wednesday. I'm going to say Wednesday. Wednesday is Christmas Eve. Or Christmas Day. Sorry about that. Christmas Day. We'll probably be back Christmas Day. We'll work the night shift. We'll get some Packer talk in there. We'll talk about everything that's happening around the sporting world. So Bucks 23rd, Packers tomorrow night there. Badgers won't be in action again until January 3rd, but we're definitely going to talk more about that. We got some transfer portal talk most likely coming up here because 28th it closes down, so we'll see who kind of transfers out of Madison in this early period here and who maybe comes into Madison there. So with that, for Aaron and myself, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you guys back here on Wednesday. But until then,